Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass. Live in the car here with you on Grande's Graveyard. And today I am welcomed by a second-time special guest host. He is the one, the only, the notorious Ty Joonbug Films. What's going on, good brother Ty?
Not much.
How's everything been?
Yeah.
So?
Yeah.
Me too, to be perfectly honest with you. So far. Miss Carter's in the heezy. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good night. You too, Miss C. Hope all's going well with you. We were talking backstage about all things movies and stuff. And scary enough, my Wi-Fi crashed before we went live twice. So hold on to your fucking nuts here, because
knock on wood.
Exactly. I'll knock on anything, man. Falcon Adams in the house. Rockin' John Day. Falcon Adams in the Heezy. What's going on, good brother? Adam, I know this is his favorite movie. The original Rocky is his favorite movie. So super excited to have you in the chat. Mateo's in the Heezy. Ciao Grande. Ciao Joonbug. What's going on, Mateo? Is that the Italian stallion himself? I don't know. The Master of Fear is here. Hey, Grande. What's going on, good brother? Devin. Yeah, no, before we went live, it crashed twice, so I don't know. We were just talking in the backstage.
Mateo, that is an awesome profile pic.
Right?
Snake Plissken.
That is, dude, we love Snake. I don't know if Mateo caught. I did a top 10 Kurt Russell show, which was a lot of fun. I'm a big Kurt Russell, like my favorite actor of all time, probably.
Right.
I don't know if we've ever talked. Who was your favorite actor of all time? It's a tough one.
Clark Gable.
Great pick. That's a great pick. I love Clark Gable, man. Favorite Clark Gable movie? Would it be Gone with the Wind?
Red Dusk.
Ooh. You ever see Boomtown?
Yeah.
That one. I love him, and I love Spencer Tracy, and anything with those two in it.
Red Dusk. Him and Jean Harlow had the best chemistry.
Oh, dude, Jean Harlow is great. That he was like, I think we briefly mentioned it on a show where you weren't with me, but we were talking about how like Clark Gable is one of those actors that just you could never recreate him. You could never, like, there's no modern day Clark Gable. There really isn't. Like, you know, Jimmy Stewart. As much as I love Jimmy Stewart, I would say Tom Hanks was like the modern day Jimmy Stewart. You know,
I think there are actors that came close to being that next Clark Gable. I mean, I guess in a weird way, I'd make an argument for Harrison Ford, but he never really got to play like a Clark Gable type of role. But he has that certain Gable presence.
Yeah, he has that like cool, the Gable cool to him and charisma. But
he doesn't. But it's more his personal life and his attitude. But I don't want to get to that part of it. But
yeah, no, as a person, I don't know about Harrison Ford. Let's hope that Clark Gable is definitely a nicer guy. At least it seemed like it.
Well, and even Clark Gable, we're talking about Rocky, but anyway, he was a reaction to a couple actors, Wallace Reed, who sadly died like at 31 years old. He got cancer. So, but that was the actor of the 20s. And then there was an actor who MGM had a contract with. I can't remember his name right now. And he was one of the big stars at MGM very early on. And they fired him basically because he kind of didn't agree with Louis B. Mayer. And he told Louis B. Mayer to suck it, basically. Which Louis B. Mayer was not exactly. He was no Weinstein, but you know he had some.
He was no saint himself.
No, and Clark Gable even told Louis B. Mayer, but this guy, while Clark Gable was more business oriented, this guy really wasn't. And they kind of scrambled and replaced it with this guy with Clark Gable. And it turns out that Clark Gable became more successful. But I gotta go. The reason I just picked Gable is, you know, he had that certain presence, and like we would not have had all the stars that macho men we have without Clark Gable. We wouldn't not have the Sean Connerys, the Stallones, the Arnolds, the in a lot of ways he was kind of. I mean, he never really got to play like an action hero role, but like the macho man's man type of man, we would not have
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I would say that the man's man, like a prototype of the man's man. I would agree with that.
And we would not have the actor with the mustache, without Clark Gable. So
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely.
and hey, not many people can pull off the pencil mustache look.
I agree.
And
Not looking like a cheesy vaudevillain, but he pulled it off.
Well, not many actors can pull off the pencil mustache look and not look like a thug or a gangster,
Yeah, yeah. Or a
So,
vaudevillain or whatever the hell. Mateo says, of course, Grande, I saw your Kurt Russell. It was awesome, man. Surprised Sky High was not on it. I love Sky High. But yeah, no, Kurt Russell, man, one of my favorite actors of all time. Slasher Fred's in the house. The Rocky series was known for its song Gonna Fly Now. Yes, we're going to get all into the legendary Bill Conti score. I guess, yeah, go ahead.
And we're going to talk about the very underrated Vincent DiCola too when we get to
it. I can't wait to get into that because I think that's one of the best scores probably in movie history that really does not get through.
And I'm going to get into it. Like, why did that guy only do 2 movies that were awesome?
And he did, wasn't it the Transformers?
The movie.
How the hell did that guy only get 2 jobs and knock the ball out of the park both times and just got nothing else? It makes no sense.
Well, I mean, and then like he got a couple like video games like 20 years later, but like what? Yeah, we're gonna get into that one.
Mateo says, I want to publicly thank Rocky Balboa to end the Cold War in Rocky 4. In your face, Reagan and Gorbachev. Yo, that's hilarious. Hey, yo. If everybody could change, I could change. Oh my God, the speech at the end of Rocky 4, man, every time makes me laugh. Like
we just need some actor to do that now.
Yes, yeah, we could use a Rocky speech now to fucking calm everybody down.
Well, I was gonna say that with the Rocky movies, I kind of see them as, if you really look at them, they're basically real life the movie. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, Part 6, and then if we want to include Creed in some way as part real life, but not really. But you really look at these movies; they're not just boxing movies. It's about a guy and his struggles in life, and sometimes in life, as it says in Rocky. Rocky Balboa, life's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I always like to add on that, like, life is a boxing ring. You will get knocked down, but only you're the one that decides if you're going to get up and make, fight that 15 rounds.
Exactly. The most important thing is going the distance. And that's the whole beauty and psychology, I think, behind a lot of these movies. And I guess it's the perfect segue into the original film from 1976. This is John G. Avildsen's Rocky, starring Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Burt Young, Burgess Meredith, Carl Weathers. I could literally go on forever. This is an all-star cast.
Oh, yeah. And,
I mean, I will never forget the first time I watched Rocky. This was one where I believe I watched it on an AMC back when, AMC would do like Rocky marathons. And I watched this and, man, just absolutely just enamored me. And it really sucks you into the world of the life of, I think, the greatest babyface in movie history. Would you agree with that?
One of them, yeah. Sylvester Stallone, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think too, like the whole, behind the scenes of what it took to make this. It's an underdog story in and of itself. It's crazy. Yeah. He wrote it out. He kept holding out for more money because he wanted to be the star. And they said, okay, you're not going to get a big paycheck, but we're going to let you be the lead. And thankfully they did.
Well, and that's the other thing about Stallone. When he wrote this story, I mean, he was on the verge of selling his car, his house, his dog.
His dog, that's right. He's going to sell his dog.
I mean, he was broke beyond broke. I mean, so, sometimes in art, sometimes creative minds in our darkest of times, we are our most creative, you know. And he wrote this story after, you know, watching probably a fight that he said he actually had to sneak into, like
Yeah.
the Muhammad Ali and Chuck Wepner fight. And in that moment, you know, how Chuck Wepner knocks Muhammad Ali on, that what struck him to make Rocky. And, you know, the fact that they were looking, you know, you know, they bought the script for him and they were looking at like Ryan O'Neal as Rocky,
That would have been bad.
which, listen, hey, Ryan, your daughter's a lot more talented than you are.
Tatum O'Neal, Bad News Bears fame.
Yeah, well, and the fact that she's the youngest actress to this day to still win an Academy Award at 10 years old says something.
True. Very true.
And you know, they were even looking at apparently Burt Reynolds too.
No.
I mean, they were the casting list they were looking at for Rocky when Stallone like, no, I have to do this. I mean, and that's the thing is, you know, I feel that, you know, a lot of people in Hollywood now have just lost that. Oh, I'm making a movie. Okay, cool. I'll be the, you know, the puppet to the director, to the producer. No, sometimes the producer's not always right. You got to stick to your gun and say, no, we have to do it this way, you know? And honestly, a lot of those guys who stuck to their guns are some of the greatest movies of all time. I mean, Rocky is probably there's a lot of these movies that are probably my top 50. I mean, a lot of the Rocky movies. And, you know, Talia Shire, I mean, you look at the cast, even that they were like Talia Shire. I mean, talk about you know, somebody who really played the victim in the 70s. I mean, before she did Godfather.
Yeah.
And that scene where James Caan is whipping her. I mean, you know, it's like, boy, you really just, I mean, you are great actors at playing the victim. And then I like how she grows throughout the series, you know. And they were even looking at James Caan as Rocky too.
No, that wouldn't have worked either.
No.
I love James Caan, but no.
No, I mean, you look at all these people, like it's like, as Sylvester Stallone said, that he definitely does see Rocky as his imaginary friend, because he's basically playing himself in a lot of ways. And I mean, and I'm not, but even my favorite character was always Paulie too, because he was
my God, Burt Young in these movies is just phenomenal. I love him.
Well, you know who the original choice was for Paulie, right?
I do not, actually.
Harvey Keitel.
Oh man, I don't think. What do you think? Do you think it would have worked?
I
love Harvey, but I don't know.
I think it would have been a different Paulie than what we're used to, but I think he could have pulled it off. You know, it wouldn't have been Burt Young, but Paulie was always my favorite character, because like without Paulie, you know, I mean, we all have that crazy family member. I mean, maybe not to the extreme of Paulie, but we all have that crazy family member that we're like, I love him, but you know, he's a little, you know, crazy and everything. So, but Rocky, I mean, just a great movie. And John G. Avildsen, you know, honestly, is probably one of the most underrated directors ever. I mean, besides Rocky, he made all 3 Karate Kid movies. And then he made a few other movies, but very underrated. You know,
I think John G. Avildsen brings an interesting look to this film too, because this movie, as opposed to all the other ones, it's the least Hollywood of any of them, and it has a very like distinct 70s grit and look to it. And like, you know, you probably wonder, people are like, oh, Grande, why don't you have the Blu-ray? I would get the Blu-ray, don't get me wrong, but this is not a movie I want to watch in the greatest of quality. Like this is a 70s, because this movie, in a lot of ways, this movie is an underdog. This movie was never supposed to win a Best Picture or Best Film Editing, Best Director. The actor was never supposed to become the mega star that he became, you know, and the character, I think, is the perfect metaphor for all of these things. And like, I think Rocky Balboa is the greatest babyface of all time, because just the naiveness of the character. And a lot of people, I've watched it with like modern audiences and my friends, and a lot of them, they don't get to like Rocky that much. Like they'll be like, oh, he's stupid, blah, blah, blah. No, like that's the whole appeal of the character. He's naive. He doesn't care what other people think. He's just,
well, that's the other thing. It's honestly, this is like I hate to make the comparison, but this is like the like every director now wants to make realism the movie and everything, but Rocky, he is a real person. Like you actually, if you really pay attention, you start to care about Rocky because like he's kind of like that friend, maybe that friend in high school, who's maybe not exactly the smartest person, but he has a good heart, and heart is the greatest thing you could give to people, and that's what Rocky brings. And
I would say that's the key to the series, is the heart of all of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of them have such a great heart to them, and I think only Sylvester Stallone could have made this character work. And I'm happy he stuck to his guns, and I'm happy that he didn't just give in and sell out, because he easily could have. I mean, when you're at the point, thankfully I will cross my fingers, I have, to this point in my life, I've never been to the point where I had to maybe sell my dog like Stallone was.
I can't, honestly, I cannot even imagine that. Like I'm more of a cat guy, but if I had to sell my cats for money, I mean, I've never been to that point, but I don't think I could. I think I would sell other stuff before I have to sell my animals, And
but Stallone did. I mean, he sold his car. He did sell everything else, and he even we don't have to go too far down this road, but he even sold a little bit of his self-respect. People don't remember, before this, Sylvester Stallone starred in The Italian Stallion, which is, a pornography film that Sly Stallone did. And he also was in films like Rebel, which is a very boring drama film. He also was in, I believe, Lords of Flatbush, which I believe was one of the movies he did before this, and Death Race 2000, where he played a heel, which I love that movie.
Well, before this, he was an unknown actor. He was an unknown actor. He did get a lot of roles, but like he always played the thug, because when you talk like this, you're gonna get kind of roles. And he guest starred in an episode of Kojak.
Yeah, and they arrest him at the end, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing, I mean, he got, and Stallone did what he had to do to just get paid. Like, I mean, and you look at Stallone's jobs that he did before Rocky. I mean, he was a butcher. He cut fish. He was a this more than I do, but like, and maybe he was more of he was a dock worker in Hell's Kitchen.
Sure, yeah.
And that is hard work to do that stuff. I mean, and and Stallone, here's the thing. Despite how we feel about Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, I mean, I respect them. Roger Ebert said when he saw this movie, he called Sylvester Stallone the next Brando.
Wow, that's incredible.
And after seeing this movie, because he compared this to a lot of On the Waterfront.
It's definitely vibes of it. The whole, I could have been a contender. I mean, definitely in there, but like, I don't know. I would take Rocky over On the Waterfront.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, I do like it, but he was comparing him to Brando because you couldn't understand it, but stand his speaking, but he had this. I think I can understand what he's saying, because Sylvester Stallone, I mean, due to his paralyzed, I think he was born with a paralyzed lip or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
And due to his deformity, you can't understand him that well, but he has that rare quality as an actor that sadly is just missing now. You just are drawn to him on the screen, and you like that it factor, I mean,
yes, he's very likable. And like, I've heard people say that also about First Blood, Rambo, where at the end when he's crying and I can't keep a job parking cars, and he's talking about his friend who blew up, and I can't find your legs, and he breaks down to Troutman. I mean, that's, to me, it's one of the best performances of all time is Stallone in First Blood.
Well,
and,
honestly,
people make fun of it. It's a shame.
Honestly, I've actually called the AFI Lifetime Achievement Awards, saying that you guys need to give it to Sylvester Stallone, because the guy's in his 70s, and I don't want Sylvester Stallone to be one of those actors. He was good. People remember him before he's too gone. You're like, I want people. I actually, because I told the AFI Lifetime Achievement Awards that, hey, Sylvester Stallone did some of the most celebrated movies of all time. Not just Rocky and Rambo. I mean,
a ton. I mean,
yeah.
Cobra and Demolition Man.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Stallone guy, just period. And like, this is an interesting thing we could get into. Why do you think Stallone gets so much shit? Because you look at, a Jean-Claude Van Damme, I feel like he's still pretty respected. Schwarzenegger, everybody impersonates him, but it's never making fun of Arnold. With Stallone, I feel like he gets the most shit out of any of them. And I don't think, is it because of the way he talks? Is it is it the reputation? Is it the reboots? I never quite understood why Sly got the most shit that he did.
I think a lot of it is mainly people just, with Arnold, I think we can kind of understand why he talks funny, because he's from Austria.
Yes.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's from Belgium. But Stallone, I think it's more that, honestly, like, I hate to use it, because it's like maybe a little bit of the high school bully mentality. Like, he's just an easy target more. But Stallone, though, honestly, I've always just respected him, because, like, out of all the other actors that kind of made their own career, they were kind of stars before, they actually, made it. The Stallone was at the, the bottom of the apple barrel, and the apple barrel was rotten. So, I mean, people bring up, like, well, A Bronx Tale, how Chaz Palminteri made it and everything. He would have made it without The Bronx Tale. Eventually he would have gotten something. And even they talk about, like, Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they were stars before they even did that. Not like
they would have, and they definitely would have gone on to be stars. And I think that circles back to the whole motif of this movie. It was a one shot. It was a once in a lifetime shot for an underdog, not just the character Rocky, but the actor Sylvester Stallone. This was it. If this came out and bombed, I don't believe Sylvester Stallone would have ever gone on to do anything. I really do believe that.
I do think the movie would have been, I think it would have been reevaluated. Reevaluated, people to say, oh, why was this movie a bomb? But I think if this movie, the fact that this movie was a hit and it made a star, and honestly, here's the other thing. This was I like the pre-70s movies, but this is one of the 70s movies that brought that. If we did not have this hopefulness it has, we would not have had the Star Wars, I don't think, or even Superman's, the movies that really kind of brought back movies, in a sense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because the 70s, it's kind of the same thing that's going on right now in Hollywood. We're selling, I always go back to it. We're selling, they sold the Hollywood moguls, the Xanax, and all this stuff, sold their movie companies to marketing people, and they're doing that now again. I mean, and but marketing people don't know how to make movies. That's why Stallone just had to fight harder, because he knew that, so that's why this movie, like, I don't think, I'm not sure what the budget of was Rocky, but it can't be more than, like, I would say at least 15 at the most million, maybe not even that. I'm not sure.
The budget for the original Rocky?
Yeah, what was it? I don't know.
I can look it up. but I wouldn't even think it'd be even close to 15
I
million.
was just selling high but going low. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, sure, sure. Let's see. I'm gonna look this up, and in the meantime, I guess we can do a couple comments. Slasher Fred, yo, Adrian,
yo,
I did it.
yo, Adrian, how you doing?
Hey, yo, I gotta do what I gotta do. I want to say, as an Italian born, now living in Canada, that Paulie is the worst stereotype of Italian American in the history of movies. I'll take mafia stereotypes any day. Sorry. Wow. Okay.
Oh,
I love Paulie, though. Paulie, there's something so lovable about how Burt Young plays that
yeah.
character. Yeah, yo, Paulie, what, they gave you a watch? I don't need to watch. I got 2 watches. He's just great, Burt Young. I like to think Rocky is Adrian's fairy godfather in a lot of ways. It's a Cinderella story set around boxing. Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. Trenchy's in the house. What's up, Trenchy? Hey, what's up, brother? AJ Zitro's in the easy. Hey, guys, nice to put a name to the face, Joonbug. Thumbs up. Okay. Let's see. We got a bunch of them. Didn't Spinell help making Rocky? Yes. Joe Spinell actually plays the my IMDb won't even load, Ty, so I can't look up the budget. If anybody'd like to look up the budget for us, please do.
Is it Gazzo?
Gatso, yeah, and this was years before Maniac, but it's funny too because he's in The Godfather as well. He and Talia Shire are in The Godfather and Rocky.
Yeah. Well, and man, every time I see Joe Spinell, though, I always just think how it's just really sad what ended up happening to him, how he died. You know, not to get into that on the stream, but he blacked out in the shower and got his wrist cut and couldn't call 911, and he basically bled to death.
Yeah, it's sad, and that's got to be a fucking sad way to go. Like, and you know, I remember. I don't know if you ever seen this picture, but I remember at the premiere for Maniac, Sly Stallone showed up in a fucking Maniac t-shirt. I can't find that picture anymore, but I remember, I swear to you, I saw that picture at some point.
I seem to recall seeing that picture too. You know, gosh, maybe Google's getting rid of that picture or something.
Yeah, because I know they had a falling out like right around the time he made Nighthawks. Because I don't remember, was Joe Spinell in Nighthawks? If he was in Nighthawks, that was the last movie they did together.
Yeah, I think they had it was kind of just a business falling out, basically. I think they remained friends, but just a business falling out, you know?
That's a problem of the business. Tracy says, I love Stallone between Rambo, Rocky, and Demolition Man. He's one of my all-time. He would be in my top 10 favorite actors. I would say that for sure. Slasher Fred. He was also in a movie called Cliffhanger. Absolutely love Cliffhanger.
I love Cliffhanger.
Absolutely love that. That's Rennie Harlan. That's a Rennie Harlan joint. Stallone and Copland. That has got to be Stallone's most underrated. I love Copland.
Copland, yes, definitely.
Copland's fantastic. I love that entire cast. First Blood is tied with Terminator 2 for my favorite action film of all time. It's just so deep and way more than just an action movie. It's a character study that just happens to have action. Exactly. Yeah, that's why I love First Blood.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's saying hi to each other. The 70s later became known as the blockbuster like Jaws, which it's funny. The last time I had Ty on here, we did Jaws. Rocky I was going to say in the ballpark of $1 million. So 1.1 million.
Yeah, I was just kind of selling high, but trying to go low a little bit too.
Yeah, and honestly, like today's standards, you would probably be more on, like, adjusted to inflation. I would assume you'd be more like in the ball.
Right. Well, because inflation is, it goes up every 10 years, so I would be kind of in the. So yeah,
you'd be close enough. I don't know. I'd round up for you. Everything I could find said the budget was just under $1 million. Isn't that crazy though? Like, you think of some of my favorite movies from the 70s at this point, Rocky being one of them. Dawn of the Dead was made for under $1 million. And Rocky and Dawn of the Dead are both in my top 10 movies ever made. Like, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you know, sometimes movies are better when they don't have all the money in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, because the director actually has to rely on, okay, what can I do to make this movie better? I mean, you know, like, that's one thing I say that, you know, directors just don't have, I feel like a lot of the big time directors now, they like, if I got if I got, one of the big movies, like a big superhero movie or something, yeah, they said the budget was $200 million. I'd be like, I want to challenge myself. Can we decrease the budget? I understand, like, you guys focus on paying the actors, or something, because I'd rather want to decrease the budget because I want that challenge, because if I have $200 million, I mean, that can,
You can sort of rest on your laurels there, because it's like, I have $200 million, I could just lay back in, and then that'll do all the work. To me, that's the beauty of this movie. It's like, there's a sense of urgency. It's the dialogue is so important in this film. The
yes.
music from Bill Conti, that piano score, do 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 do. I mean, amazing. The whole sense and feel of the Philadelphia neighborhood, and Rocky being friends with everybody and walking little Marie home, and don't be with nasty kids that smoke and do drugs and bad things, and she tells him, screw you, creepo, and sort of runs off. But that's the good guy Rocky is. He's just looking out for everybody. And whether it be Paulie in the meat factory, and I mean, it's just, I love the world that this movie creates, and I love the neighborhood, because it just gets a really good sense of, this is a small scale, this is a small town, this is a small story, but this is a big star in the making. And that's why I really enjoy this movie, the whole setup of it. It's just wonderful.
And Carl Weathers, I mean, let's face it, he's playing Apollo Creed or Muhammad Ali. I mean,
sure,
but I mean, why not? Muhammad Ali was the boxer at that time, and he is still the greatest of all time.
Muhammad Ali is one of the greatest salesmen, talkers, fighters. Just that guy could do it all. And like, I always remember watching the Chuck Wepner stuff, the documentary on Chuck Wepner. They also made a movie with Liev Schreiber where he stars Chuck Wepner.
Yeah, and they made a couple of Chuck Wepner movies.
But Ali, I thought, was just so smart, because like, I know he grabbed Chuck Wepner before they went on TV. This is a true story. And he said, listen, let's really sell this thing. And Wepner was like, what do you mean? He was like, call me out. He's like, go for it. He's like, listen, you and I both know probably not going to do anything, but he said, let's sell it, and that's why I thought Ali was just so smart. Even though he's facing an unknown, he still wanted to draw money. And Ali really got that. And that's why I think Carl Weathers in this, I would say Apollo Creed, it's the best character that Carl Weathers ever played, especially in part 2. When we get to part 2, I think he really comes into his own. In this movie, in the first movie, he's there, but I think he's given it so much more to do in the second movie. And even in the third and the fourth, he's a little bit more.
Well, and yes, I mean, he is great in this movie. And like, it's very sad that Carl Weathers never got on that level of.
That's a shame. Action Jackson's a movie I like, but he never. You're right. He never got a Schwarzenegger or a JCVD or a Seagal.
I don't think it was. I don't think it's what people go to. We're not even going to go into that, but like, I think a lot of it was Action Jackson, and the movies that he starred in just didn't make the box office, for whatever reason. And, it's probably honestly marketing,
Sure. And it's also, it's like, look at the movies where he was side, like a side. Okay. In Rocky, he's Apollo Creed. In Predator, he's, what's the matter, Dylan? The government having you push too many pencils. I mean, I love Carl Weathers, but like, in a lot of movies that made the money, he was the side character. So maybe just, he was typecasted, and just said, they said, hey, you're a side guy. You're not going to be the lead.
And
I think Carl Weathers could have done it, man. I love Carl Weathers.
Well, and that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why I think it's so cool that he got the, he got the part in The Mandalorian, because he's actually part of the group, but he's honestly a big part of the group too. I mean, I hope it can lead to bigger things for him. I mean, I know he's in his 70s now, but
I think, though, at the end of the day, that this particular character for him, he just hit it out of the park. Yeah. Like, and I love Tony Burton, who's since passed on. who I think the world of. Of course, he was in a bit role in The Shining. I always remember he's in that briefly.
Yeah, he is.
His energy throughout the series of no pain and that man. I watched you beat that man more than I ever watched any man get beat before, and that man kept coming after you. That's not a man we need in our lives, baby. Tony Burton is tremendous in this.
And
I just love him.
I can't sing enough praises though for Burgess Meredith.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible.
I mean, we need. I mean, you talk about actors. We need actors like that more, like the ones that just have that very iconic voice, and but can just have a good screamo at him. And I'm not talking screamo like music, but yeah, I mean, because I mean yeah, it's fun to imitate Stallone, but I find it more fun to imitate Mickey. You're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crop thunder. I mean,
what this thing's attracts? It attracts flies. That's what it attracts. Burgess Meredith's funny because I had grown up watching him on The Twilight Zone, whether it be the obsolete man, Mr. Dingle the Strong, and of course everybody always mentions the one where he's his glasses break at the end, time enough at last. I had grown up watching him from those, and then when I saw him in this, I was like, that's the guy from The Twilight Zone, and he's just. I love one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he and Stallone are in the gym. And Stallone, I've been coming here 6 years. 6 years you've been treating me. I want to know. Yeah, I want to know. Because you have the potential to be a great fighter. And you wasted being some cheap weight, second-rate loan shark. And it's a living. I love the two of them yelling at each other.
It's a waste of life.
And when he goes to visit him at the apartment and, I had blood shooting out of my cheek and stuff like this. And I don't know, I think that Burgess Meredith is so important to why this movie worked because he gave a good veteran presence to the film and a great energy. And Mickey is just one of the most likable characters. I adore Mickey.
Even with him, even the actors they were looking at, I can only see Burgess Meredith. This is one of the very few movies I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he could work. But they were looking at Lee J. Cobb, the guy who played the cop in The Exorcist.
No way.
I mean, I like him as an actor, but no. I mean, they were looking at Lee Strasberg, and I'm just like, that guy was a teacher. He was not an actor. The very few movies he did, he kind of sucks, So I mean, he was the older guy in The Godfather, So in The Godfather 2. I mean, Burgess Meredith, I mean, and let's face it, before this, he was kind of known to playing villains. I mean, he played the devil in one of the Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, the Printer's Devil. That's the one people forget about. He was the Penguin on the Adam West Batman show.
Well, that's one I always go to with Burgess Meredith. I like the one where he plays the devil because I just like how he plays it. He just plays it, not bombastic and everything. He just plays it straight.
Yes, he's having fun with it, but it's not over the top. If that makes sense.
Right, and the other thing about that scene is people who say, oh, Stallone can't act and everything. I'm like, watch that scene because where the whole scene where Stallone there's that moment where they just lock eyes with each other because he forgets his hat and he walks back to get his hat and
it's awkward but
Stallone just sells it with his eyes and they both sell it with their eyes and it's just and one thing that doesn't get talked about a whole lot I feel like in the Rocky movies, but Rocky loses this fight.
Yes, that's true.
He loses the fight but Apollo feels that Rocky won. And so,
I think the whole thing with this movie too, and that's the big reason why I like Rocky 2 a lot. And I think it's probably my favorite sequel is that he does win outright. But this movie, I think, is telling a different story. I don't think this movie was about him winning. Another one of my favorite scenes is when he's the night before and he's looking and he sees the two posters of he and Creed, and he says, hey, to the promoter, he goes, you got it wrong. I'm wearing white with the red stripe. And the guy just goes, yeah, don't worry about it, kid. You're going to give him a great show. And he just walks back home just defeated. Like, they don't even care enough to get the color of my trunks right, let alone do they think I have a chance to win this. And, the whole speech he has with Adrian and, nobody's ever gone the distance with Creed. And if I could do that, I'm still standing in that when that bell rings, I'll prove that I wasn't a fluke and I really was worthy. And I just think that performance from Sly, it's fantastic. And the emotion that this movie makes you feel, like the Bill Conti score and the training and running up the steps and believing in yourself, even though nobody else believes. It's
exactly. That's the thing is, there's a reason why, like, people call these an inspiring story like this a Rocky story. I mean, because it's great to feel the stuff, the great, hopefulness that you feel when you watch this movie, because it's like, yeah, you know what, if I got this big opportunity, I might fail, but people are going to know that I tried my hardest not to fail,
Yeah.
And, I mean, but yeah, I think we could spend all day talking about Rocky. So,
yeah, we've been 40 minutes of this one movie, but and it's funny, we didn't even cover everything, like the whole love story between he and Talia Shire. I enjoy that stuff, and he goes, she's in the pet store, punching the meat of Paulie's place because he gets mad.
You heard how that scene actually happened, right? When Stallone worked at the butcher shop, boxing is huge in Philadelphia and still is to this day. Boxers would actually go in and punch the meat. I mean, so that is real right there. I mean, and I can't even, for a fat guy, I'm a pretty strong fat guy, but like I can't even imagine sitting there just punching hard things of cold meat with hard bones and all this stuff. I mean, I would try it, but that's brutal there, and you could see what I love is you can actually see Stallone's knuckles bleeding because he actually did it,
Yeah. And I like they show Tony Burton is watching on TV. He's like, hey, champ. He's like, you want to take a look at this guy? He's like, I think he means business.
Yeah.
Paula's like, I mean business too, like.
Yeah. Well, I love it though. Apollo Creed though. The Italian Stallion versus Apollo Creed. Sounds like a damn monster
movie. The best.
Yeah, we could spend all day talking about this. So
yeah, no, I love the original Rocky. It's one of those like, what more can we say? For me, an 11 out of 10. One of the great movies of all time.
I'd since I do the 5 rating, I'd say a 6 out of 5. So because it's one of those movies that it's one of those very rare movies that is, if you start saying I don't like this, you're just shut up. You're nitpicking, because it's
there's nothing not to like.
While I did not put it in my top 20, just because there's so many other movies I like, I would say this is at least probably in top 25 because, I mean, yeah.
It's a masterpiece. Rocky, the original Rocky is it's probably my favorite Rocky movie too. And that's not to say that I don't like the sequels, because right off the bat, you probably have my favorite sequel of the entire bunch. From 3 years later in the year 1979, this was Stallone actually took the directorship for this. This is Rocky 2. Yes, Rocky 2. To me, one of the all-time great sequels. And a sequel that in a series where, a lot of people talk about part 3, a lot of people talk about part 4 and Ivan Drago, and a lot of people even talk about, Creed and stuff like that. I think this one gets slept on a lot. Like, people don't really talk about Rocky 2 as much as the others.
Yeah, I mean, Rocky 2, that's a great thing about all these movies. Like, there's, all of them are good, even Rocky 5. And, but one of the things we should talk about more is this was another risk for Stallone, because before this, he made a movie called Paradise Alley, which it was his directorial debut, and it flopped hard.
Not a
And
great movie either.
no. And, you know, Sylvester Stallone, this was another risk for him because they were going to get, they were probably going to get John G. Avildsen back or some other director, you know, but Stallone stuck to his guns again. No, I want to direct this. And, you know, Stallone, I mean, talk about the stuff he's directed. I mean, he is, I would say, a very underrated director.
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean, and honestly, I think Stallone with his career now should just take the Clint Eastwood approach and say, you know what, I'm going to step back a little bit from acting and direct more because you honestly, Paradise Alley, you know, let's just say that this is his true directorial debut because
yeah, Paradise Alley's a mess. I don't like Paradise, and I'm a big Sly fan.
No, but
you know.
this is, I mean, and the thing is, what I like about this is how, yes, Rocky lost, but Apollo feels that Rocky won, and so it's this whole big, you know, it's you're yes, you are leading up to is the rematch going to happen? Is it going to happen? And you know it's going to happen because you know, but you know, and what I like is that they actually draw attention to the fact that Rocky, you know, he, you know, got his eye pretty good, cut his eye pretty good in the fight, and you know they draw attention to that, and we didn't mention it in this part, but you know, in the first part of the retrospective. But what I like is Mickey says we have to teach you not to fight southpaw, and you know, because it would catch him off guard, and you know, that's the great thing about Mickey is you know, at the end of the day, you know, he is Rocky's trainer, but he's more of he thinks more like a general, you know.
And he wants to protect the bad eye in this film. So that's why he asks him to switch. And this will confuse Apollo and protect that bad eye. I love his whole spiel. Mm-hmm. But you know, you're right, man. Like this movie, I think it's just a perfect build to the end, you know. And like what I was saying before, where Carl Weathers gets so much more to do. This is, I think, Carl Weathers' best performance is in this particular film.
Yeah.
I love when he's, you know, his wife, she's playing with the kids and he's reading the letters, you know, how much they pay you to carry that bum. And she's like, why can't you just ignore it? And he's like, are you serious? Like, this is my reputation. And he cannot move on from it. Even his own trainer. Let's just move on. Let's go after fresh meat. Why do we have to keep chasing him? And I love, there's a great line where he smacks the table. He goes, I won, but I didn't beat him. And you see how it eats up Apollo Creed alive that he didn't beat him. And he really wants to prove to the whole world, and by any means necessary, thus calling out Rocky with the newspapers, calling Rocky a chicken. And Rocky in this, he really steps back. I want to get married. I wonder if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much. And, hey, Rock, you ever invest in condominiums? I never used them. Like, you know, it's funny, you know, Rocky's working at the meat factory with Paulie. He's really taking a step back and trying to appease his woman. And, you know, he comes to the point where I'm not happy doing this. And, yo, Adrian, I never stopped to ask you to stop being a woman. Don't ask me to stop being a man. And, you know, Mickey comes back and I think we ought to knock his block off. And it's just, I think it's a perfect sequel. Like what would happen afterwards? Would there be the immediate no? Like he's just laying back and Apollo sort of dogs him into it. And he tries to move on from the life of a fighter, but he can't do it because that's who he is. That's what chose him. And it's just so great to see how he sort of battles the more evil Apollo Creed in this movie. In the first film, I would say Apollo Creed is not really a villain. He's just the champion. He's the entity in Rocky's way.
Yeah,
in this one, he's more of a villain.
In this one, it's like since Apollo, we've established Apollo Creed is basically Muhammad Ali. This is Apollo using the true method of flow like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Somebody commented that too. I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry, I missed a bunch of comments, guys. I'm sorry. We're in depth here, but there you go. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Absolutely.
Yep.
But yeah, no. This movie is just phenomenal. I just love everything about this movie. Like, would you say this is the best sequel of the bunch?
I would say story wise, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking movie wise, probably Rocky 4, but definitely story wise. Like this feels like a true continuation of the first movie, and you know, even Talia Shire, she really did kind of step back a little bit in this movie. It seemed like, but when she's in the hospital and watching this for the first time, there's moments where you have to keep in mind when you're watching for the first time, there's moments where you think, is Adrian going to die?
Yeah.
And, like, because, and they sell it too, but then Mickey comes in and that scene at the church,
great.
We need to fight this guy hard like you did before. That was beautiful. I mean, but I can't even do a good Burgess Meredith, but
that was good. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, to me, it sounds more like George C. Scott. So
George C. Scott as Mickey, that would have been the fucking day. But no, all the quirks in this too, like catch the chicken rock. I mean, you're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crop thunder, and all the fun training montages in this too, and how Rocky he's sort of off when Adrian's in the hospital, he can't get his head screwed on right, and Paulie even says to her, he's like, you're making him feel guilty about this. Like, you gotta just tell him to go out there or else he's gonna get killed. If you really care about him, tell him to go and do it. Mm-hmm. And it's not until Adrian says, there's one thing I want you to do for me, win. And that's when Rocky really gets his head screwed on right, and it's kicked into gear.
I love that. I love the musical, the little ding that Bill Conti does after win. That's just like, and then Mickey, what are we waiting for?
And they sort of do two training montages. Like, they do one where he's actually training, and then the one where he's actually running with the kids and celebrating at the top of the steps. And it's wonderful. It's the perfect yin yang, because this is a very personal fight for Apollo Creed. As much as we focus on Rocky Balboa, I love the whole press conference and this time you will all see the real Apollo Creed, lightning fast and hard to catch. And Paulie's sitting there smoking and saying, his lungs he's going to punch out. Now, who's that? Al Capone? And I love the whole time Apollo is furious and Rocky's he's not selling it at all. Rocky, you have anything derogatory to say about the champion? He's great. And, what are you going to get for the wife? Oh, I want to get some perfume for Adrian, because she likes to smell good. And what's that frog's name? Kermit? Just great. It's such an animated, but I love Carl Weathers in this, man. He will die on the hill. And even getting to the fight itself, which I do think the fight in this is a lot better than the first one.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, some of that may have been budgetary things from the first film, and maybe that's one part of the grit of the first film that doesn't work as good as it does in 2, 3, and 4 with the fights.
It works for the movie though. So
yes, totally. I think the psychology of the fight even is brilliant, because Apollo Creed has the thing won on points. If all he had to do in the last round was stick and move, stay away, and he's the champion. And they tell that story well. Rocky wins a few rounds, but Apollo's got the thing won. He has it won.
Right.
But the whole mentality of Apollo Creed is, I haven't won unless I knock him out. And he goes for the knockout, even though his own manager, don't go for the knockout, Apollo, you've got it won. And he still goes for the knockout and ends up costing himself the match and the title. And I think that's the brilliance of storytelling. And a lot of people nowadays, I don't think they get that. Like, they see something like that and they go, oh, how stupid is his character? No. That is his character. That's his ego. He was back in that fight to knock him out. That's it.
We talk about now how we want sympathetic villains, but it's not done correctly. But the greatest thing about a villain is they have the drive to do something that they feel is right, but it's the wrong decision. And, he feels that, okay, I have to knock him out, and it costs him the match. And, what I love is the moment where they both get knocked out at the same time.
Oh, but the best.
Yeah. And then, it's this slow motion shot. I mean,
1, 2. The
And
best.
there's just here's Stallone getting it up, and then Adrian, I did it.
I love this movie. Rocky 2, I think, is the best sequel of all of
Yeah,
it. It's perfect. It's
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
it's the satisfying ending because we all wanted to see Rocky win in the first film, and it wasn't about that in the first film. In this film, it really was. It was about him winning, and it was a lot about Apollo Creed ultimately costing himself what would have been a sure win. But this one has so much heart to it too. I love this movie. I would honestly give this one a perfect score too. I think
Yeah,
Rocky
no,
2
no,
is
I would give this one too, because I mean, honestly, like I'll go as far to say that this is one of those sequels that people need to definitely reevaluate and look at it as, the Godfather Part Twos or the Empire Strike Backs or even Back to the Future Twos, because it's a continuation of it's a perfect continuation of the first movie, and it even makes the first movie even better, I would say, in a lot of ways.
yes. And it's also it's very like we were saying how the first one's distinctly 70s. This one feels very 70s too.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you get to Rocky 3 and 4, those are 80s. Like you
Yeah.
really can feel their 80s. The first two they feel 70s, and like it's almost like it feels weird that it was 3 years later because it doesn't feel like it at all. It feels maybe the next year they came out with Rocky 2. It just feels very close together.
Right.
But it has everything. It has the intensity, again, the Bill Conti score, the same heart, and the satisfying ending. AJ says right here, tears every time at the end of 2. It's the perfect, Adrian, I did it, and I love you, and I like that in the first film it ends on a freeze frame with he and Adrian. This one ends on a freeze frame with he and Mickey. And I thought that was just wonderful. Like they won it, they did it together, and it's just a beautiful ending. Apollo Pride is his downfall. Well, the first 4 movies are about the rise of an underdog because of his determination. It's also about the fall of a champion because of his exactly. I think a lot of people miss that. That's the beauty, I think, of Apollo Creed's character. It wasn't good enough to win on points. It really was not good enough to win on points. He had to knock him out in his own head. And I think that ultimately costs Apollo the belt. I think it's brilliant writing, to be honest. Salute to the chat. Flo Chamber, what's up, good brother? And the panel, Grande, Joonbug. Rocky's one of my favorite film franchises. First film was my favorite. I agree with that. First film was my favorite as well. But Rocky 2, it set the world on fire. And 3 years after that, I guess following the rules of 3, we get the third film of the franchise. Another great movie here. This is Rocky 3. Yes, Rocky 3. Ty Joonbug, what are your thoughts on this one, man?
I'll say, like, obviously story-wise, this is kind of a step down, but it's still fun because, Mr. T, it's just he is the perfect dick. I mean, like, he's a perfect dick, the perfect, well, I would say more antagonistic internet troll, if you know what I mean. He, because the scene where hey, he's talking to Adrian.
Hey woman, how about you come
woman,
out here and come to my place? I'm gonna show you a real man.
And then like that just sets him off. And what I love is also, Paulie in this, where he gets you see Paulie's more character because he gets jealous of Rocky because Rocky has become corporate, basically.
Yes, and that's a whole thing too with this movie too. But before we get into that, I do want to mention Clubber Lang, easily my favorite Rocky villain. Yeah. I don't know about you, but easily my favorite. Just the one-liners, the Clubber prediction for tonight's fight. Pain. I mean, Mr. T was, and this was, I believe, wasn't this Mr. T's first role?
Yeah.
How did that's unbelievable. And like we look at Carl Weathers as an Apollo Creed, and he's great. And but also look at these next 2 movies. I mean, Mr. T, this made Mr. T's career. You look at the next movie, Dolph Lundgren, that made Dolph Lundgren's career. These back-to-back villains. Clubber Lang is tremendous. Come on, Creed. I mean, he is just a perfect villain. So good in this, man. It's great.
The only reason Mr. T got this role was, he was like a big time bodyguard but he was known for his personality, like in nightclubs and all this stuff. like I believe he might have, I don't know who he was. I can't remember who he was the bodyguard. It wasn't Stallone, but like he was just a bodyguard and like a more like known as a bouncer that had
Dolph, I believe Dolph was too, right? Wasn't Dolph a
yeah,
bodyguard?
right, yeah.
That's crazy. So he took two bodyguards and made millions of dollars. When you look at what Mr. T and Dolph Lundgren went on to
Well, and
do,
he was
probably
known,
Mr. T
you know,
more
that was
so.
just Mr. T, known for the mohawk and wearing the chains version of himself. Um, and you know, I just love that, you know, how he is just so antagonistic. You know, thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mateo says Clubber Lang needs a live of his own. What a character, R.I.P. Mickey. Yeah, he sort of incidentally kills Mickey in this. I can't lie, I love Clubber Lang, man. Hey, fool, I'm talking to you, Rocky. I love. Come on, paper champion. He is. Oh, he steals this movie. Well, even the reason Apollo decided to train Rocky in 3 because he didn't want Rocky to lose to Clubber and make him look weak. He's like, you beat me, you better beat him. He's not. I think also, you know, Apollo, you know, he had a good heart too, you know, and you don't see that as much in the second film. But
Well,
Apollo's a great guy.
what that's what I like about this is that he definitely, you know, Apollo realizes once let's face it, Mickey was probably sick to begin with, but Clubber Lang didn't really help much.
No, and Mickey had a bad heart. They even show you that when he's fighting Hulk Hogan, which it's funny because Hulk Hogan is in this, and he and Mr. T went on 3 years later to main event a little show called WrestleMania. So
Right.
it's
And
crazy.
you know, I'm not going to go as far to say that maybe Clubber Lang murdered Mickey, but he didn't really help it, you know, much.
Yeah, no, just it certainly helped the ball start rolling on that one.
And you know, I that speaking of that, that scene where Mick, you know, I will say Stallone probably should have given himself another take when he cries because it is kind of a little on the I don't want to I can't think of a good word, but you know, he should have given himself another take, but it is still emotional. He does sell it, but
it's sad, man. When Mickey goes, and I like the whole before it, you know, and then we can get into this now. We were talking about the whole brilliance, I think, of Rocky 3 is, you know, it also mirrored Stallone's career
right.
because it was him dealing with becoming famous and known by everybody. And
Yeah,
Mickey says
it
it
was him
great.
dealing with
Yeah. Uh-oh.
all this stuff.
I lost you for a second, Ty.
I lost you for a second there too.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
It does deal with him being. It does deal with Stallone because at that point, you know, he was becoming, you know, one of the highest paid actors at that point, and it deals with Rocky more being that too. So,
and being, I think Mickey says it best. You got civilized. It's the worst thing that can happen to a fighter, and I think the same thing. It could be the worst thing to happen to an actor if you become very egocentric and you really, you know, you just start taking paychecks and whatever roles, and it can really hurt you. And I think that this is a big metaphor on how Sly dealt with the fame. And at first it never goes well because you don't know how to deal with that because you've never had it.
Oh, the other thing is, you know, even it goes for YouTubers as well. You know, I mean, sometimes us YouTubers, we act more egotistical than we really are because we're trying to show off for the camera, and it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have because you want that, you know, and it goes, you know, sometimes we act more arrogant than we really are and all this stuff. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Everybody's human. It's just, I think it's interesting that he put it into this film because it's a lot of people don't want to admit when something like that happens.
Oh yeah. And Stallone, one of the things I love about Stallone, and I've always respected about Stallone, is that he can admit when his ego got too far. A lot of stars can't do that. And he has always admitted, he's always been honest. Hey, like, this is when my ego got out of hand and, you know, got that big reality check, you know?
Sure.
And, you know, sometimes, I say that we need those, and we need to listen to those when we get those reality checks, because it can make you just a better person. And
Yeah.
and that's yeah, Rocky 3 definitely, and everything. And boy, I'm just gonna say Talia Shire. I don't know if this is just her just getting older or what, but Adrian got hot in this one. In these
Well,
movies.
Sly says it like, "What'd you have on before? 3 sweaters." And
Yeah.
this is definitely the best she ever looked was in this movie.
Well,
I would agree with
she
that.
still looked good in others, but like she got hot in this one. And her,
Again, she got civilized too. I think it's the whole thing. Like they have money now, they have a mansion, they have all these luxuries, 10 title defenses, but he lost the most important thing. He lost the eye of the tiger. And I think the loss to Clubber Lang, where he gets his ass beat at the beginning.
oh,
It's number one, it's wonderfully filmed. It is brutal, and you feel those punches. They're fantastic. But I think it's the humbling loss that the character needed,
yeah,
because it really, he started just resting. It was coasting, and he didn't know it, even though the opponents were handpicked by Mickey, but he didn't know it, and he
no,
really still believed in himself. But every now and again, I think even a great champion needs that humbling loss to sort of wake them up and say, I got to be better. And thus Apollo Creed steps in and, maybe we can win it back together. And the way to get it back is to go back to the beginning. And
well,
Apollo takes him to California and shows him his humble beginnings and the lesser area and the gym. And Paulie's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We have money. And Apollo's like, it's not about money. It's about, getting that eye of the tiger back. And he tells him, he says, look at all these people in this gym right here. They have it, that eye of the tiger. He says, the look in your eyes when you beat me. That's what you need to get back.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the whole beautiful story of this movie is getting the eye of the tiger and the will to win back for a champion that's been, lost everything.
Well, and speaking of Eye of the Tiger, what a great song.
Oh, amazing.
And, to think the original song that they wanted for this movie was Another One Bites the Dust. It just doesn't. I mean, I love the song, but that just doesn't work. I mean, maybe I'd pick rather Rio the Champions over.
Yeah, no, I love Queen, but man, no, Eye of the Tiger was the song, and it builds up the opening of the movie perfect.
Yeah.
You see Clubber Lang training
and
amazing.
Survivor had a Rocky story as well. They were an unsigned band, and Stallone happened to see them in the nightclub, and like, I need to get these guys. They were unsigned, and Stallone believed in them. I mean, and Stallone talk about not having an ego or anything, because he basically discovered them. Doesn't take any royalties from Eye of the Tiger or anything, because they wrote the song. And he could have easily said, well, since I discovered you, I want this percentage. He never did that for him.
And I think that's because Sly knows, how hard it is to make it and just how it is to be an underdog. And, it's so cool that he gave them this chance. And to this day, that's one of the most iconic songs of the entire franchise.
I personally like Hearts on Fire better, but
me too. Yeah.
Eye of the Tiger is a great song. And it's, Survivor is still touring, but since Dave Bickler, who's saying Eye of the Tiger, Jimmy Johnson later on saying Hearts on Fire, which you can't even tell that that's a different singer.
Yeah, that's true.
And David Bickler is back as the lead vocalist, but the band's just, it's sad. It's sad what happened with their career now, because they're just they're not a headliner anymore, which they're not on the level of Def Leppard or Motley Crue now, but
sure.
It is what it is, but Rocky 3, yes, definitely. And, one of the things I love is the fights are, like you said, the fights are just brutal in this one. I mean, like there's those scenes where, he's sitting there, the slow motion, and Cleverland. Did Stallone watch some, martial arts movies in Japan? Because that's what it feels like. Because, the blood, the sweat, and just the slow
The
motion.
sound effects of the punches and
Oh yeah, I
oh
mean,
my god, like when he goes and his eyes just oh my god, like it is
and,
insane some of the
Bill
fights he does.
Conti even adds to a lot of his scores, and it just proves that Bill Conti is probably one of the most underrated composers ever. I mean, besides this Rocky stuff, he's done a lot of great work as well. I mean, just Rocky 3, it is a step down story wise, but this is kind of, I guess, at that point where people make the argument where Rocky more became an action hero rather than a story. But I'm not complaining about that.
I
Because
think I will say though, I would say that I really do like the story though. And I think
yeah, I
it
do
was
too.
smart.
I
Like
do too, and I like it that it's a metaphor for when you become famous, don't have a big ego. Maybe it's okay to have that, you know, a little bit, but don't become civilized and all.
yes, yes. And I think I would go even a step further than that. I think the whole movie is sort of a metaphor for fear,
Yeah.
right? Because I think Clubber Lang, he is the incarnation, the human incarnation of fear. And
Mhm.
Rocky says to Adrian in the scene at the beach, which I think is the best scene in the
Yeah.
movie, he says, for the first time in my life, I'm afraid. And she goes, well, as long as I've known you, you haven't quit anything. And, it's okay to be afraid, but we all love you. We're all here. But she also reminds him, she says, you're the one that has to do this. Apollo can be here to help you, train you, styles, whatever. I'm here to love you. Paulie loves you. We all love you. But if you are the one that has to step in the ring and beat him, and you can't be afraid. And if you lose, so what? At least you did it on your own terms. But
Well,
don't go in there and be afraid. And really, I think it's through that speech that he believes in himself again. It's this. I think the saddest thing about this slide, Rocky doesn't believe in himself anymore.
exactly. Well, that's the thing is, if you want to be a director, these movies teach you lessons to be a director. Rocky's once like your directorial debut. Then Rocky 2 is like your sophomore, and then this one is when you hit the Spielberg big leagues. And
Yeah,
then you were like, oh crap, I better step back, and you know, and it's that I love that scene at the beach too, and Talia Shire again. What an underrated actors. I mean, really only known for The Godfather and Rocky. I mean, but if you're going to be known for something, why not those movies? Because
sure,
uh,
absolutely.
well, like what else was she in of note? We could say, oh, she was in this movie, but does the public remember it?
No, I remember from a shitty horror movie called The Landlady, but that's better left. Everybody should not see The Landlady. No.
Exactly. So the public forgets about that movie, but you have not.
Good. Good. It's bad.
And
Oh.
I mean, and to think a lot like the original actress that they wanted to play Adrian, and I can't see it at all. They wanted Cher to play Adrian. I'm just like, no.
No.
Honestly,
I think this is one series where they got everybody right. Like there's
exactly.
nobody that feels off to me at all. Like almost all of them I think are perfectly casted. Like there are very few Rocky films where I'm like, I would have got a different
Mhm.
no. Like even when we get to 5, I think Tom Morrison does a great job. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I would say though, the fight at the end of this movie, Rocky 3, I think it's the most brutal, at
Oh,
least up to this point.
yeah.
It's so much fun because it starts where Stallone is trying to fight like Apollo Creed, quick and
Mhm.
jiving and moving, and it's a lot of fun. And then the second round, Lang just catches him and ragdolls him and
Mhm.
destroys him. And then Stallone starts to really just try to egg him on. And ain't so bad, ain't so bad. My mother hits harder than that, and blocking him and egging on the villain.
Well, that's the great thing about also Clubber Lane is more of a tacticianist with his fighting. He knows how to beat people by using what their weakness is against them. And then Rocky realizes that, catches him off guard, and that's how he.
Flips it.
Uh-huh. But yeah, anyway, we could probably spend a lot of time talking about Rocky 3 and Rocky So
we could if we had like unedited, like if we didn't like for time's sake, we'd probably go on for fucking 7 hours like with Rocky, because it's just there's so much to say on all of them. And like Rocky 3, I think it's a beautiful movie, and it's like I don't know, I could totally see why somebody would say this is their favorite. It's just as good, I think. It's I would say for me it's a step down from 1 and 2, but that's just because 1 and 2 are perfect.
For me, it is a step down. Like this is a 5 out of 5, I would say. And
yeah, it's still a great. It's like still up there for me. Like
yeah,
it's still great.
But Rocky 4.
Oh, okay. So we could transition, but a couple comments. I'm sorry, everybody. The comments have been rough tonight. The Eye of the Tiger, big statement. Rocky 3 is my favorite. Mateo's favorite Rocky film. Very cool. Love the friendship between Apollo and Rocky. Me too. Absolutely great stuff. Aiden Bavers in the Heezy. What's up, Aiden? I adore Queen, but Another One Bites the Dust would not work for this film. Agreed. Eye of the Tiger is so perfect for this whole franchise, although my favorite song from a Rocky film is There's No Easy Way Out.
That's good too, yes.
Let's not forget that Rocky 4 is also Living in America. Oh, I love it, man. I'm adding the landlady. Don't do it. Oh, it's so bad. It's terrible. But fast forward 3 years later, and I actually don't own a copy of this one. I'm ashamed, but one of my favorite Rocky movies. This is Rocky 4. Yes, Rocky 4. I got to start off by saying the reason I love this movie is because it's like an 86-minute long music video, and I love it for that.
I'm not complaining about that, because music videos back in the 80s, when MTV was MTV, was awesome. I mean, I didn't grow up, I grew up watching those old music videos on VH1 Classics on Metal Mania. And
that's awesome.
So I did not even like a lot of the 2000s music. Like people are surprised that I'd never heard of like some 2000 bands. I've never heard of. I never grew up with them because I always watched VH1 Classics, and I love those music videos. And like Vince DiCola, again, as we talked about, how did that guy not do further movies?
It's bizarre, because this is like, to me, what the whole replacing Bill Conti, good luck with that on paper. He did it. He did it.
This was his first thing he ever did. And he was 28 years old. Like, he was my age. When he did it. And like, he did some of the best music ever. And like, honestly, gave one of the best soundtracks ever too. And he did it twice. I mean, he's the one who wrote the Transformers, Robots in Disguise.
And like, when there's a Rocky movie where I think about music, this is the one. I mean, No Easy Way Out, Living in America, Hearts on Fire, not just the training montage, Hearts on Fire, but before that, with like the amazing.
Well, and again, Stallone directed Rocky 3, and he directed this one, but like, this is Stallone with a totally different style of directing. And, he proved that, it just proves that Stallone is a very underrated director. I mean, that, you're able to make, again, basically just a music video movie, because.
And it works perfectly. I mean,
yes.
It's incredible how well it works.
And Dolph Lundgren, I mean, an opposing presence, and who the studio I heard was, who I heard was gonna, they were really pushing to get to be Drago. They were originally wanting Arnold.
Oh my God, that would have been crazy, man! Could you imagine?
Especially in this era right now, because this is the peak of, Stallone versus Arnold. This is like, Arnold just did the Terminator, Conan,
and Commando, right?
Well, Commando came out the same year.
Okay, yeah, so he was doing Commando at the time.
Yeah. But the only reason it did not happen, I heard, was Bridget Nielsen. Because
really, Red Sonja herself, huh?
Because her and Stallone were married at the time, and Bridget Nielsen was not exactly the most faithful to Sly.
No.
She cheated on him with Arnold, and that's kind of why the big rivalry started. So the whole rivalry between Arnold and Stallone was Brigitte Nielsen.
Isn't that a shame too? Because I know he said in like later he was like miserable being married to her too and stuff like that. Which she also shows up in Cobra as the love interest.
Yeah, and she's in this movie as the wife of um, Ivan Drago, and this is the best she's ever looked. I mean, she's not exactly an attractive woman, but she looks good in this movie.
She was at the time. I like Red Song. She was a good looking woman. I would say that at the time. Now it's like, especially when it got into like, I remember when she was with Flavor Flav, and I was like, holy shit, like this is bizarre.
Well, drugs don't exactly make you look the best.
Exactly. She looks terrible when she was with him. I was like, oh geez, like.
Well, I mean, so yeah, but the only reason that I read it did not happen was because Arnold was cheating. And so I'm like, man, I mean, because if Arnold was casted as Ivan Drago in this time period, I think this movie was already a hit. Like I think this made more money than Rambo 2.
This and Rambo 2 were the two most successful films of Sly's career, and they came out the same year.
Yeah, and
insane.
I'm pretty sure this one made more money.
Yes, definitely.
But I think if you would have gotten Arnold, this would have been. I mean, I'm just gonna go for it, make the big ballpark. I think this would have beaten Ben-Hur at the box office.
It's possible, but I do think again there was nobody other than Dolph Lundgren for me.
Yeah,
and I think it's so cool because again he made the guy's career. I mean, you look at Dolph Lundgren after this. He played the Punisher. I Come in Peace and Universal Soldier and Showdown Little Tokyo. I love Dolph Lundgren, and I think he was the perfect Ivan Drago. And I would say, I don't know how you feel about this. Would you say Rocky's last great opponent, Ivan Drago?
Yeah, definitely.
I would too.
Because, the great grandson of the Duke, Tommy Morrison, he's okay, but I'll get into it more when we talk about Rocky 5.
Sure.
More of a, let's just say I know, I'm growing up in the Kansas City area. I know people who know him, who knew him, and the stories you've heard about him are definitely true. So I kind of more of a weird issue with Rocky 5, but I still like the movie. And his worst opponent is easily Mason Dixon.
Easily.
Because that guy sucks as an actor.
Yeah, and it's funny because Tommy Morrison was a real boxer, and you would expect, okay, Tommy Morrison, he won't give a good performance. He does in Rocky, and we'll get there. But Antonio Tarver as Mason the Lion Dixon, easily the worst villain of that. Well, I guess not including the Creed. The villain in Creed is the worst villain, but like of the Rocky movies, I would say Antonio Tarver. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because he's not an actor; he's just a boxer. Maybe that was why. I don't really know.
Well, then why? Then here's the other thing. Then why was Tommy Morrison a good actor? Then because he was actually, it was just one of those things. That I just think that they were thinking more cheap than quality.
Sure, totally.
But yeah. Anyway, I mean, I love how they could not film in Russia at the time because obviously,
yeah.
The Cold War and everything else, but I thought they filmed like in, they could have used some of the mountains in Canada or something. No, they filmed it, I believe in Washington, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And it works as Russia, like you buy it being Russia.
Totally, you buy it. And a big thing with this movie that people talk about is, of course, the opening with Apollo Creed challenging Ivan Drago. And do you think this was right thing here to do to kill off Apollo Creed's character? Because they had just killed Mickey off. What did you think? Did you think it was right call, wrong call? What do you think?
I mean, since I see the Rocky movies as real life, the movie, sometimes, real life sucks.
Whoa.
Power outage.
What the fuck? Yo, that was crazy. I was like, yo. Oh, okay.
Wow. Sorry. Wow. That was Ivan Drago's mad at me now. I guess I don't know.
Apollo is fucking trying to kill you for.
I thought, okay, well, yeah, okay, wow. I thought,
What's bizarre?
well, I thought, okay, well, I was about to say, well, because I'm charging my phone and it's at 100%, but I don't want to like lose battery, have it, and so just because my power went out, I don't know how long I'm going to be here now. So, fair warning to people, but my power's back. Yeah. So anyway, wow, you need to get somebody to capture that moment in the video and just say Joonbug's power went out. You know.
It was bizarre. Like you were like, I thought you were like, you turned the light off to be dramatic for a second. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, is the ghost of Apollo? He's like, you think I should have died, Ty? You fucking asshole! No more.
I mean, so as I was saying before, I don't know, God interrupted us.
Yeah, that was bizarre. Oh, you still didn't lose Wi-Fi connection though. Oh
so
God.
anyway, it's just so yeah, that was I was going to say that Rocky movies, they're just real life the movie, and sometimes real life sucks. You lose friends in a short period of time. I've lost friends in a very short period of time, and it sucks, but I think that Rocky, it kind of also teaches you a metaphor too, that maybe sometimes revenge is not the answer too.
Yeah. Trenchy says, I think they did it perfectly. Apollo died because of his pride, because he wouldn't let Rocky throw in the towel. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that the Apollo Creed character, like, okay, so I've heard people say, oh, what if they just had him in a coma? Like similar to Bloodsport and when his buddy gets Chung Lee and they, thanks, man. And I don't think that would have worked for Apollo Creed.
No.
I think if Apollo Creed lost and was in a coma and woke up from the coma, I think he'd be devastated.
It would have ruined the movie. Like it would have ruined it. And this proves what a great actor Carl Weathers was, because when Ivan Drago actually punches him and like when he actually fell, they had medical people on set. The fact that he was actually twitching and doing all that stuff, he actually scared the medical people. Like they actually thought, "Oh shit."
And they had a real scuffle, Dolph and Carl Weathers, because I think they were filming the scene and Dolph hit him hard and Carl Weathers threatened to leave. He was like, "Fuck this! This guy."
Well, that leads into this story. Everybody knows this story. Stallone wanted to see the power of Dolph Lundgren and told him to really hit him, and punches him in the heart and moves his heart like 3 inches. That's significant for a heart. And the thing is, when he went to the ER, I mean, he had this moment where Stallone thought he was having a heart attack after he punches him, and he goes to the ER, and the doctors actually thought he was faking it, because they said this was the equivalent of somebody who survived an accident in a head-on collision with 2 semis colliding into each other. That's how significant this injury was. I mean, even if you don't believe in God, God was looking out something, or I believe God was looking out for Stallone then, because
and Dolph would have been probably arrested if he killed him.
Well, no, oh come on, Dolph, 20 years in prison. What did you go to prison for? I murdered Sylvester Stallone.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Well, hold on. If that actually happened, I think they actually could have said manslaughter. So manslaughter would have been less of a charge. But yeah,
he still would be in prison, I think.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with what Trenchy was saying, man. Like it really was, I think, Apollo's character, and I like this movie does the emotions and the stare downs better than any of them to me. there's a quick shot where Apollo looks at his wife, and she's like this. She's like, "Look at me, like this is not worth it." And he's, "I'm okay, I'm okay," and he gets killed. I mean, my heart just goes out to her in that moment. She's Apollo and crying and
oh
my God, yo, that kills me.
The fact that lady, I don't know her name. Obviously they later replaced her in Creed,
which was bullshit.
Well, she died.
I didn't.
Sorry. Oh no, she died. The fact that she never did any acting outside of the Rocky movies. Like, you look up her IMDb list, mainly it's just Rocky and maybe like some bit parts. I mean, and the fact that they got her, like, it wasn't like Rocky's Kid where they replaced him in every movie, you know?
Yeah, and the next one, Rocky's Kid aged 5 years over a day.
Right.
Now he staged Stallone.
Puberty.
Your dad goes to Russia, beats a fucking icon, you age 5 years.
Yeah.
The law of averages.
But yeah, I mean, and Hearts on Fire and Survivor, I mean, both their songs for this movie are excellent. And I do know, I have heard various stuff, but I do know it might have even been talked about, but I know the Final Countdown was considered for the soundtrack.
And was Sweetest Victory's on the soundtrack, right?
Right.
But it's not in the movie.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I like that song. I wish they could have maybe found a way for that to be worked into the film.
I think Final Countdown could have worked. I think it was talked about. I can't say if it was really like set in stone, but is what I've heard. But I've also heard it wasn't talked about. So I get conflicting reports from that. I mean, I wouldn't be complaining if it was on because I love the Final Countdown. So
same. I think this movie, like we were saying, it's like a whole music video. But that's the ultimate compliment of Rocky IV. And the whole, again, great Stallone psychology of, Ivan Drago juicing and using all of this equipment and technology to his advantage. Meanwhile, Stallone, he's using the nature, the environment, and instead of lifting weights, Stallone is literally lifting the ones he loves in that wheelbarrow.
Oh, yeah.
The significance of that. Like, people, that's why I don't get the shit for Sly. Like, so many people, Sly sucks, Sly's cheesy. And at this movie, at this speech at the end, even I will tell you it's a little cheesy, but that's Stallone. And that's, more importantly, that's Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky is naive to all of this. Two people killing each other in here, but I guess it's better than 20 million.
And hey, as a somebody who is a lumberjack, I chop wood and do all that stuff. That is hard work to do. And, I mean, you have to have, it's not just about strength doing that. It's actually more endurance doing that type of work. And even in the cold, I've done that before. That is, in the cold, is one of the hardest things you can do because it's just, like I said, it's just that endurance strength that, sadly, I don't think a lot of people do have. And, they just sell it how, him going up the mountain, Drago!
I love that, man. It's money. It's just such money. And the entrances and the whole Russian anthem. And I love how Dolph just stares down Stallone, and they have that moment of eye to eye from across the ring.
Well, Dolph said that the person he really wanted to emulate with the stare down is Clint Eastwood, and I think he's one of the very, very few people who emulated that, and actually, got very close to that Clint Eastwood stare.
Sure. I think, and that's the thing why I would say Ivan Drago is the last great Rocky villain is because of he's a man of few words, but we all remember if he dies, he dies. We all remember I must break you. We all remember he's like hitting a piece of iron. We remember the things that Ivan Drago says, and it was the perfect counter to what Clubber Lang and Apollo Creed, because Clubber Lang and Apollo Creed, they could talk the talk and walk the walk. But Drago was more about the physical presence of one Dolph Lundgren, who I believe was a mixed martial artist and a bodyguard before this.
And Grace Jones's boyfriend.
Yes, he was Grace Jones's bodyguard, and that's how he started to date Grace Jones, crazy enough. He was also in, I believe, your favorite Bond film, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, in a very bit role. But it's just wild.
To a Kill.
You know, yes.
Yeah, A View to a Kill.
No, I thought it was on Your Majesty's Secret Service.
No, he would have only been like 12 years old then, but because that came out.
How did I always thought it was? Shit, I'm sorry, everybody. I thought it was.
Oh well, no, that's no, I that's one of my least favorite Bond movies.
I thought you liked George Lazenby.
No, I like George Lazenby, but A View to a Kill is one of my least favorite ones because.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Because like that's when Roger Moore, it became, here's Grandpa Bond. Here's dirty old man James Bond, because
Liam Neeson Bond.
Well, Liam Neeson, at least like it's not that creepy yet.
I think it's there. By Taken 3, you're there. He's old man.
Well, it's. I'm more talking about the women part of it, because him and Allison Duty were 40 years apart.
Yeah,
it got like creepy, dirty old man creepy level. so that's why, like, I should say, like, listen, Bond should be at least in his should start. Don't pick an actor who's almost 50 years old to be Bond. You know.
Yeah, Mateo makes a good point. Grace Jones is Mayday in A View to Kill. Okay, I got the wrong Bond movie. My mistake.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's what he had a bit role in that. But I think it's the whole presence of him. I think he did a great job in this Dolph Lundgren. Would you say, because for me, this is the best fight of the series. I love this fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is brutal because, like, the fact that Stallone went to actual realism and actually to punt, I mean, you can tell they're connecting. And if you actually pay attention, not to say I really was, but when I was watching these movies for the reviews, Stallone does an illegal move. He punches below the belt.
Yeah.
And
to try to chop the big tree down.
Yeah. If you pay attention, Stallone, here he is giving him a haymaker. And like the fact that it proves that, hey, Dolph Lundgren must have had balls of steel, because he does not even flinch.
No. The guy looks like he was made like in a factory, especially at this time. Like, it's bizarre.
Dolph Lundgren, his acting like he needed. This was like a good college experience, I guess, for acting, because he said that he's not an actor, but this was going to college for acting. He said he based the performance, and you can see it, off of Clint Eastwood and Frankenstein. And
it was smart, because you played to his strengths. If you had tried to make him cut promos like Clubber Lang, it would have never ever worked.
No, and I see. I don't even think Dolph has gotten a lot better as an actor. Like,
yes,
I mean, you see some of his later direct-to-DVD movies. He's gotten a lot better, but I still don't think he could do an antagonistic Clubber Lang or Apollo Creed performance. You know, even
I would say the closest was Universal Soldier. My name is Lieutenant Andrew Scott, and
I'm all ears.
All ears. You kick ass, I kiss ass, and see, they're everywhere. I love him, and that's my favorite performance from Dolph Lundgren is Andrew Scott. I love him in Universal Soldier, but I know what you mean. Like, he's not that type of guy. I agree with you completely. Like, he's not not a Mr. T, not a Carl Weathers. You're not. He's just not.
Well, it was good. I mean, it was good because it brought more, of a different approach, because let's face it, I mean, Clubber Lang and Apollo Creed, they're both kind of antagonistic type of villains, but it brought a different presence to the Rocky franchise that honestly was needed.
Yes, definitely.
Honestly, like, I know a lot of people make fun of that speech, but I like the message behind that speech, because and honestly, I hate to go into it on the video because it's meant for entertainment purposes, but like it's a message that I think a lot of people should actually listen to, especially nowadays. In what's going on. Because you know we get what I'm saying. Because the message
Sure.
behind the speech.
I'll be honest. When I was a kid, even when I was a kid, I was like, all right, this is a hokey speech. But that's Rocky. It really, like, it's the character would make that speech. If I could change, you could change. Everybody could change. It's
Right.
fantastic. And even the Russian prime minister gets up and starts fucking clapping for Rocky, and Hearts on Fire, and Rocky's the champion of the world. And in a lot of ways, I think it could have ended here. Do you think this maybe in an alternate world, this would have been fine as the ending? I mean, Rocky's on top. He's avenged his best friend. Is there anywhere else really to go from here? I think this could have been the end.
I mean, I think in some ways, yes, but I guess a good transition for Rocky 5. I do like Rocky 5, but it is a step down from a lot of the other movies, but because I like the idea of Rocky becoming the mentor.
Me too. Sure.
And I think that definitely it worked, but I just don't know if Stallone was quite old enough to do it.
I just think, maybe sometimes franchises should just end on top, but it's very rare that it happens. It really is. I mean, you could make the argument it could have ended after Rocky 2. He won. That's it. Even after Rocky 3, you could make that argument, but I don't, once you got to 5, it was like, but I guess you're right. That's a perfect transition for part 5. For part 4, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's even a step above part 3, a small step. But the first 4 are the best to me.
I would say, I'd probably say another 5 out of 5, honestly, because I mean, it's awesome. I mean, and honestly, I can't say that this is my favorite Rocky movie, but this is usually the one, like, if I just want to put in a Rocky movie, I just put in Rocky 4, so
it's the most 80s of all of them. It's just so what the 80s was. It's
mm-hmm.
It encapsulates the Paulie and the robot, and the music video and the montages and the songs and the characters and the story and the message. It's very 80s.
I wanted to say this too. I haven't seen it yet, but did you see the director's cut or no?
I didn't bother. I love Rocky 4 the way it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was hoping that it was successful, so maybe we could get director's cuts of Rocky 2 and Rocky 3.
Rocky 5 is the one I think that needs the director's cut. That's the one.
I don't think that can happen because John D. Avildsen is no longer with us,
which is a shame because I don't. Have you ever seen? I guess we can move on into which AJ is already part 5 can go blow a goat. Oh boy. Rocky 5 years later. This was the first one that wasn't 3 years after. It was 5 years later. Stallone admitted in interviews that this was made out of greed. And this is the black sheep of the franchise. Everybody seems to hate this one the most. I will say, of the 6, if you're not including Creed, this is easily the weakest one.
Yeah.
But if you do include, I think Creed is like a bad remake of Rocky 5. But Rocky 5, it's a mixed bag for me because like there are things I like in it, but it overall is a very awkward film. Like people throw out bad, it's horrible, terrible. It's awkward. It's just an awkward film for me. What are your thoughts?
I think that is the best way to describe it. It is awkward. And what I think I do like the idea, because it's part of it. Again, Rocky, real life. This is part 5. After, sadly, as we know, a lot of boxers get head trauma.
CTE, sure.
And, I mean, it happened. It even happened to Ali. I mean, I don't know if they've ever made the connection, but getting hit in the head so many times. Parkinson,
Holyfield too. I believe Evander Holyfield has the same problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, Parkinson's. That's part of how he got Parkinson's later in life. I mean, so I like that idea that Rocky, he can't fight anymore because he's gotten brain damage.
Which makes sense. I mean, after the brutal fights with Clubber Lang, the brutal fight with Ivan Drago, you can understand why he has brain damage. I just don't think people wanted to see that. I don't think people want to see the beloved character of Rocky Balboa get brain damage, and then Paulie screws up all their investments. It's like, we didn't want to see this. I get what they were going for. I think they're going for similar to Rocky 3, becoming uncivilized again and living in the old neighborhood without the luxuries. But
the thing is, I do like a lot of that because it makes Rocky go back to his roots. And, you know, I do even think that, you know, I appreciate Stallone, but how he kind of gives an awkward performance even. But I really think he's trying to think about the brain damage. And, like, Stallone isn't a good actor, but I don't know if he was capable of doing the brain damage type of performance. You know, because you would need, like, more of a Daniel Day-Lewis type of actor to do that. And Stallone's not that. But I appreciate Stallone for actually trying to do that.
You know, it's funny. I don't know. Have you seen the work print version of this?
I have.
I think his performance in the work print version is better. For people that don't know, the work print version, I believe you could watch it on like Daily Motion.
Yes.
It's basically the entire movie with added footage, but a lot of the scenes are alternate takes. And the alternate takes, for the most part, I think Sly does a better job.
Yeah,
it just feels more natural.
Yes, he does. And, you know, I'll say this: Hash Brown released the director's cut. That should be your director's cut of Rocky 5, because, you know, that's one thing I'll complain about with all the Rocky movies. Why is it that the first one is the only one that gets good special features? I mean, if you would get the DVD, I mean, because I would just say for Stallone, okay, listen. Here's the thing: pay Stallone, have him sit for, have him sit and just do recording commentaries and documentaries about, you know, all these movies, and, you know, because, you know, Rocky, and then see if there is a way, if we could get the producer's cut of Halloween 6 on DVD, I think we can get this version of Rocky on DVD at some point.
Sure, it should be. It really should be.
And especially for, and then probably, honestly, I know this was John G. Avildsen's that was his preferred cut.
Which makes sense, because the film works better. If you want, like, for me, when I watch Rocky 5, I go to Daily Motion, I watch the work print. I can't, the theatrical cut is so fucking awkward to me. Almost every level. Like, it just doesn't work, man.
Yeah, and even we talked about, I was going to say, with Tommy Morrison, he was born in Oklahoma, but he's from the Kansas City area. I've known people who actually went on dates with Tommy Morrison, and he was all the stories you have heard about him. I don't know what you've heard, anybody in the chat or even Grande. They are pretty much all true. He was a asshole.
Yeah.
And he really liked to use the fact that his name was Morrison, and I believe he was the great nephew of John Wayne or something like that. He was related to John Wayne and something, and he liked to just boast that, and how he was this big hotshot boxer. And
he was a hell of a boxer too.
He was a boxer, and like Stallone was hanging, I believe, at a party, and just was watching boxing on TV and saw that guy's, you know, his haymakers, and like, whoa, and how brutal he was, and kind of inspired him to write this movie. And, you know, I would say that Tommy Gunn is he's probably definitely the weakest out of all the, you know, next to Mason Line Dixon.
Yeah, I would say he's better than Antonio Tarver. I think it's funny because he is a step down from Lundgren and Lang, and he's a step down. But there are some good points to his performance. I like the scene where at the dinner table and he discusses how his dad used to beat him up, and, you know, the first person he ever knocked out was his father, and how they do go for a little bit of sympathy there. Like, okay, this was a kid that was abused, you know, and you do feel bad, but you get why he goes crazy and kind of goes off the rail, because he only sees his father, and he never had a father figure in his life. In steps the Italian stallion, Rocky Balboa. And we all know how great of a role model he is. And on the flip side, they have this whole thing with Sage Stallone, Stallone's real son in real life, plays his son in this movie.
Rest in peace,
And
Sage.
yeah, rest in peace, Sage, who was a big for horror fans. He was a diehard exploitation film fan. Grindhouse Releasing, people don't realize this. That company was partially founded by him.
Yeah.
He was a huge Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust, I Drink Your Blood. He loved exploitation.
He released one of my favorite movies. It's with it was shot in Vegas. It was it was Duke Mitchell who did these movies. And the one movie, it's about kidnapping the Pope. And like, there's literally, I'm going off topic a little bit. There's literally a scene in this movie. Look up Duke Mitchell and some of the exploitation movies he did in the 70s. I mean, these are like low budget gangster Vegas movies. There's literally a scene where he's just going at it with a big lady.
Wow.
I mean, these are just, sorry, but these are, he released those movies, and he actually finished the movie for, it was released years after. But look up Duke Mitchell's career, because you might know him. Have you seen Bela Lugosi Meets the Gorilla?
No.
Okay. It is a Martin and Lewis movie, but Duke Mitchell and this guy Sammy Petrillo, they played basically Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, but they're too cheap for that, and it's one of Bela Lugosi's weirdest movies. But it's very interesting. But yeah, Sage Stallone, that was, it's hard for any parent to lose a child, because we expect, as parents, we expect us to go before our child. And when I heard Sage died, I was like, man, that sucks for Sly, because and honestly, for his first movie, Sage does a good job. And
I agree.
And it is sad that he never really got that sort of career like his dad, in a lot of ways. Fingers crossed, Sistine Stallone, who's acting now, gets to be like, have a career like her dad.
I remember Sage Stallone was in Chaos, which is like a Last House on the Left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember him in that, but he didn't do too many.
He did Daylight.
Yes, that's true. I think he does a good job here. I just think like this is one of those movies too where I feel like there's too much going on. Like It's just too much in one movie. I enjoy the guy playing Don King. Basically, what's his name?
It's the guy. It's the guy in he's in Jason Goes.
Yeah, he's the mortician that eats Jason's heart.
He was actually one of the original choices for Creighton Duke.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I forget, but he's great.
Richard T.
It's Richard something. Yeah, you're right. I forget, but he's great in this as like the Don King, only in America. And he persuades Tommy Gunn, and I don't know. I think this one, it definitely has its moments, but all in all, it's a mess, and it's a movie that it's clearly a cash grab.
Yes, I mean it definitely is, and I guess I do appreciate the fact that Stallone did wait, like after the pinnacle of Rocky IV, like 3 years later, 1988. I'm gonna do Rocky V. I do appreciate the fact that he waited. Because at that time, let's see, Stallone, it would have been Lock Up, Rambo,
Tango and Cash, Rambo 3.
Yeah.
Which were all pretty much flops. And maybe that's why he went back to the Rocky well.
Right. Well, Tango and Cash, it broke even, but the production issues and the raised budget didn't really.
And they expected it to be big, and it wasn't.
It broke even. It was kind of literally like one of those right in the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like Rocky V. Like I do, but it is definitely a step down from all the other ones. Like honestly, for me, I would say probably at least a 4 out of 5 for me.
Wow, that's high for this. I would say like like a 5 out of 10, like middle of the road.
Yeah,
Because
well,
it just for as much good, it has as much bad for me.
for me, I like the fact that it's more of the fact that it goes back to its roots, and I always like it when franchises do kind of after a big pinnacle, they do go back to the roots, and
Because where else is there to go once you hit the
yeah,
peak?
and yeah, and
I like the stuff with Burgess Meredith and get
mhm,
up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you. I like that. I
yeah,
like. I do appreciate that they didn't fight in the ring, like they just did a street fight, which I
yeah,
believe was choreographed by Terry Funk, who I'm a huge fan of. I think this movie, like I said, it has its moments. I love the scene in the bar where Paulie calls out Tommy. You know, Tommy, you're a piece of garbage, and he punches him, and Stallone goes to Paulie, and Paulie, you should have left him on the street where you found him. And hey,
mhm,
yo, you tried knocking him down. Why don't you try knocking me down? And
yeah,
my ring's outside. Let's do it. I just Tommy
yeah.
Morrison did a good job, man.
Hmm. Well, what would you think, as you know, about the original ending?
No way. You can't if they had ended it like that, it would be like a 1 out of 10 for me because it's a middle of the road without that ending. For people who don't know what we're talking about, Rocky was originally going to die at the end of the street fight. That was the original ending. And no, that's not in the work print cut, so nobody worry about that. If you
No, they never filmed. They never
It's
filmed it.
never filmed, but that would have been fucking terrible.
Well, what did you hear? How they were going to do it?
I thought Tommy Gunn was just going to beat him to death. Is that
Um, Tommy Gunn is going to beat him to death. He goes to the ambulance. He tells the ambulance to stop and gets Adrian out. Adrian, he starts running up to the steps, and then he dies on the steps.
wow? That's
And but his last words to Adrian are, "I love you."
if they had done that, it would be the worst sequel of all time. Like it would be Creepshow 3 bad. It would really be there.
I Here's what I'll say. I'm actually okay with killing off established characters. It depends how you do it. If John G. Avildsen could direct it good, maybe it could work. I don't necessarily agree with the producer saying, "Oh, this is how they worded it. We can't kill Superman."
You
And then,
can't.
well, then 4 years later, they did kill off Superman. But yeah, I I would have to see how it was presented on the screen, is what I'll say. But I think that if it's something like how they do it nowadays and killing off characters, then no.
I don't think it would have worked. I think that's one character that just he should never die. It really like he's like this. That's why I was glad in Creed 2 when Rocky did not die. I thought for sure that was going to be it.
Right.
But that's the thing with Rocky 5. If he had died, we wouldn't have got the sixth film. And you may think I'm crazy for this. The sixth film, it features my favorite performance from Sylvester Stallone.
I agree with you. Sylvester Stallone gives a great performance in the sixth one. Grid transition, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, so fast forward, I guess we can transition. Rocky 5, mixed bag for me. Rocky Balboa, 16 years later. And, I remember, because this is the only one that was made or at least the only movie with Rocky in the title, where, it was made in my lifetime. And I remember the ramblings at the time and people making fun of Stallone. Oh, he's done. He's made films like Avenging Angelo. He's made films like ICU. He's made films
Right.
like Driven. People don't remember Driven. Don't. It's a terrible movie.
No, don't watch it.
But I remember everybody bashed him and how old he's bringing this back. And then I saw the film and I was like, you people can bash this guy all you want. Sly Stallone is one of the best actors going now. And I think he should have won an Oscar for this movie. I'm not even kidding when I say that. I think it's his best performance of his career.
Yeah, well, definitely. It is one of his greatest performances. I mean, that scene, he basically tells what I've been saying that Rocky is about at that one scene. Life's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. We all know the speech because it's been famous now, but Sylvester Stallone sells that so much. And you can see how he's getting emotional. And like a lot of people I heard complain about how Adrian dies in this one, and I'm like, you know what? Again, sad part of it is, again, real life, the movie. Sometimes, life sucks and your wife dies of cancer. It's sad, but
I like the stuff too though with Burt Young and yesterday wasn't so great and you treated her good, I treated her bad, and I really feel for Burt Young a lot in that scene where he feels regret that he didn't really love his sister the way he felt he should have. And
well, that's the thing is like this movie is essentially about like regrets, in life, like it's two older men, kind of like, probably looking back at their life and like, Paulie, this is even one of Burt Young's best performances.
sure.
And like, he never really made it to the pinnacle either. I mean, he's great in, Amityville too, but
Oh god, Amityville 2 is crazy, dude.
yeah, but it's like Burt Young, like what an actor. I mean, he just sits there and that scene, the scene where he's crying about, how he could have treated Adrian better. I mean, you feel for Paulie. Like Paulie was always my favorite character out of the original, out of all the movies, because like Paulie was kind of like the heart of the franchise. Where he basically Rocky always had to help Paulie out because Paulie was kind of an idiot.
Sure.
And this is Paulie just looking back at his life and like, wow, I was an asshole.
Yeah, and for him to admit that, because Paulie was not that type of guy. He was
No.
never going to put blame on himself. I don't sweat you. And even when in Rocky 5, when he loses all the money for them, he doesn't really take responsibility. He's just like, oh, blah, 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 this, that. And he blames it. Like, I appreciate that in here. He's like, I feel bad about it, And Milo Ventimiglia plays Rocky's son.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job of like
out of all the actors that played his son, he does the best job.
Oh, easily. And he definitely has, I think, the most to work with. Like, no disrespect to Sage or the other actors, but he definitely had the most to do, I think.
Right.
I don't know. I like this whole ensemble cast. I like they bring little Marie back from the first film. And she's sort of the Adrian-like character. Granted, it's no love story, but it's the female presence that he talks to. And probably my favorite scene in this movie, nobody really talks about it aside from the sunshine and rainbow speech. They're in the van together, and Sly is discussing, what people are going to say about him if he returns, into the ring. And I think again, that's Stallone doing exactly what he did with the Rocky 3. It's mirroring his life in real life. People made fun of him. People lynched him for coming back at this age, at this character, in this franchise. And she said, what do you care? You just go out there and do it. Be yourself and do what you do best. And that's what this movie is, I think, as a whole. It's a testament to his career. To me, it's like the perfect full circle of his career. Where if you watch Rocky 1 all the way to this movie, and Sylvester Stallone, all the movies in between, Good and Bad and Rhinestone, I think, this is the perfect full circle for his career, for me at least.
Well, and I like the fact that I did see this in theaters, and actually, the whole Marie thing, bringing back Marie, I kind of hinted upon the love. I thought they were gonna like do the whole thing like, oh, this is his new girlfriend.
Thank God they didn't.
No, because that would have been creepy. I mean,
unnecessary. And he says like, Adrian's my wife. Like that was it.
Right, and but this was one of the first ones I saw in theaters, and I remember liking it a lot. And I saw it with my dad. It was around Christmas time, and and I remember looking up posters for it and like fan posters. Like I wish I could find those now. Good luck finding those because now Google just focus. If you Google Rocky 6, it'll do this movie. But I remember this one. It was this gold poster in the background, and it had boxing gloves and Rocky 6. And it said "Bring it on." There's just some really cool. I remember looking at fan posters of this one just before it was happening. I remember one of them. Like I remember the fact when they did the whole making fun of Stallone because he's old. I remember one of them. Of two old guys fighting in wheelchairs and stuff like that. But then there was a lot of people, even back when forums were a thing on the internet. You know, a lot of people rooting for Stallone.
I was too. Like I'll be honest, I was rooting for it to be a good movie, and it really was. Like I was so happy that I was like, I want to hear where these fucking negative people are now that just put Sly down time and time again. It's like,
well, the thing is, Stallone has always been one of those actors that knows how to reinvent himself. Like right now, he's kind of in a slump right now.
I mean, for 10 years, probably. I mean, I don't know. Is it time to hang it up? If I was Stallone, I would hang it up.
Let's see how the Sumerian does.
But I mean, it's been 10 years of Sumerians and Backtrace and
Sumerian. Let's see how that does because I don't think that's out yet. So
I'm just saying I feel like it's been 10 years of dud after dud. What is the last? I mean, Escape Plan was a big letdown. I mean, finally gets Schwarzenegger and Stallone together, and it's not an action movie. It's a prison escape film. Like, what? Like, what a weird choice. I don't know. Like, not the worst movie in the world, but not the movie that those two should have done.
Maybe Sylvester Stallone, again, should just focus on directing and not cast himself. Like take the Clint Eastwood approach. Clint Eastwood, I mean, in recent years, he's been kind of doing more, but for a while, Clint Eastwood was selective about what he did. And I think Stallone should just direct more,
I agree.
And, take a step back, like maybe say, you know what, I'm getting older. I'm just going to direct. And honestly, like, I think he should just direct like a drama, like just one of those movies where you're like, oh man, because
it would definitely be better than Staying Alive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I agree with you. I think that's the direction he should take now. Like it's the acting career. I would put it to bed, to be honest. Like
or just be selective.
Sure, you could do that too. Like Jack Nicholson was very selective towards the end of his career, and it worked out. I mean, he made a lot of good movies. I just think, I don't know, like this to me, it's the perfect like ending to his career. Even though I like Rambo, the Rambo movie that came out right after this, like he made an Expendables, like he made some okay movies after this, but to me, this is like the perfect ending to his career and to this character. I love. And granted, the villain's not much. Mason Dixon.
No. You know who they should have gotten?
Who do you think?
He would not have been a big star at that time, but Scott Adkins.
Sure, we could have done that. I don't know. It's just something. Maybe it's that he's not written that well, but that the villain. It's just there's nothing to him.
Let's put it this way: there's kind of a reason why you were in a Rocky movie. Why has Antonio Tarver? Maybe he's done like small roles. But why has he never done anything of note since this movie? Maybe that says something,
Yeah, and the fact that he was just a professional boxer, I mean, it just, but again, part of me can step back and say, hey, the original film, we remember Apollo Creed, but we remember Apollo Creed more for the second movie. Like he has more to do in the second movie, whereas Antonio Tarver, he doesn't really have much to do. It's just, I'm a dominant champion, but that's it.
Well, and Antonio Tarver, let's face it, like he was never. I mean, did anybody really ever hear of him before this movie? I mean, he was not nowhere near like a Mike Tyson or a.
Well, boxing was dead at this point. I mean, boxing wasn't as popular, and it hasn't been in a long time. I mean, the Fury Wilder fights of recent or the most things of note, but before that, I mean, find anything other than Mayweather, Pacquiao, stuff like that. But the boxing, the sport is really just like,
well, maybe Mike Tyson didn't help it too much after.
I mean, he was the biggest thing at that time, though. I mean, boxing now, it just doesn't have that appeal anymore.
No, and so, yeah, I will say that this is honestly just, again, another probably 5 out of 5 for me. Because
me too. I'd agree. I love this movie. I think it's Stallone's best performance. I love the story. This is a reboot done right to me. Like,
Yes.
very few reboots do I like. This one I think is done right. Like, everything about it I like. It has the
And
heart.
I don't even see it as a reboot. It's a sequel.
Yes, totally. But like, people would probably say, oh, good reboots, bad reboots. This, to me, it's a perfect ending after the misstep that was 5 to me.
Yeah,
Like,
and I know you don't like Creed that much, so but we can
I
talk.
hate them all, to be honest.
Yeah. I guess just so we can put a stamp on it at the end. We can kind of transition into it a little bit because I think at least Creed. I think they needed somebody to sit there and say, "Hey, Adonis is not likable. That's its biggest problem.
Sure.
Adonis is a prick." And honestly, I get it. You grew up in a rough. You grew up rough and everything, and then I do get Adonis's motivation because he wants to prove himself. I get that with Adonis, but again, you basically just make me want to think, okay, this boy just needs a whooping instead of you trying to be your father, and plus the other thing that they're missing for me is a Paulie type character.
Kill Paulie off.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Paulie type of character, the heart, because, and I think, yes, the acting, the villain in the Creed 1 was horrible.
The worst of the series.
Yes. I do like that they did try to make his girlfriend deaf. I did like that idea. But again, its biggest problem is that I think it needed it had a good premise, but it needed another voice as far as the writer as the Creed movies to make Adonis more likable, because that's its biggest problem.
It is, and it I don't like what it did to the Apollo Creed character at all. Like, they insinuate that Apollo Creed cheated on his wife. And
I see. I don't like that idea at all but here, and once we talk about Creed 2, I'll give my idea for Creed 3, because that does lead into a little bit of my idea. But yeah, that's its biggest problem. I think that, listen, I'll say this: if Creed 3, 3 strikes you're out. If this one sucks and they make more of them, I'll watch them when my family rents them on Redbox, because they're not going to get my money. Because I say 3 strikes you're out.
Sure. I don't know. This first Creed movie, and it's funny, this is the one that Stallone got the praise for. And the Oscar nom, while Rocky Balboa was such a better
is it really just because he got cancer?
Yes, I think so. I think it's because I think people realized maybe they fucked up and gave him all the shit for Balboa, and I think they were like, let's make it up and just give him a nom for this, that he's dying.
And then they didn't even give it to him. If they got it to him, I could say, okay, the Academy is doing what they did with John Wayne and True Grit. I love True Grit, but it's not John Wayne's best performance. It was essentially just a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes, and the eye patch and it was the same thing with oh geez, Cary Grant. They just gave him basically just like an honorary Oscar because they didn't give him for any of the
or even Martin Scorsese in The Departed, which The Departed is a great movie, but it's not like Martin Scorsese's best.
It's not movie. Taxi Driver. It's not Raging Bull.
Yeah, so it was essentially just Lifetime Achievement Award. And if they would have given that to Stallone, like, hey, here it is, you won, I would say, okay, maybe it's not his best performance, but at least it's the Academy's way of saying, okay, Lifetime Achievement Award, okay, cool. I would have been like, I wouldn't have called bullshit on it, like some people on YouTube. I'm not going to mention names, but I would say, okay, I always respect them when they do something like that. Just maybe it's not their best performance, but they realize, oh yeah, he is good and everything. But then they didn't even do anything with it. I mean, who even won Best Actor 2018?
Best Supporting Actor. This was 2015. I know. Wasn't 2015 the year Leo? No, that was 2014 for the no, 2013 was The Revenant. Then the next year was Birdman. Was it Spotlight? Didn't Spotlight win? I think Spotlight won Best Picture, but what won Supporting Actor? I don't really know. I don't remember.
I'm trying to look up, but my computer's being slow.
But Neon Black Reviews is in the Heezy. What's going on, Neon? What's going on, good brother? Mateo says Rocky's one of the Goonies. Never say die, dude. Absolutely. Never seen the Creed movies. I don't think you're missing much, man. Trenchy said True Grit's his favorite John Wayne movie. Great pick. Italian Goodfellas is in the house. What's going on, Italian Goodfellas? Yeah, no, though, man. I don't have much to say about this one or the next one. I don't know what to say. Like, I just don't care for the films.
Yeah, who won it in 2016 for Best Supporting Actor was Mark Rylance in Bridge of Spies.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought that movie was just okay.
Yeah. And honestly, J.K. Simmons, Mateo says, for Whiplash. Okay, well, that's a good performance. I love J.K. Simmons.
Mm-hmm. And even Creed 2. Okay, I like the idea behind it. You know, him going after the guy who killed his father and everything. You know, there is something there. Again, but it's the biggest problem with the franchise. Adonis is an unlikable prick. You know, he's just kind of a thug. You know, that's the biggest problem with him. You know what I mean?
I think they just did him a disservice because it's like you can't follow Rocky. Like nobody can be a babyface like Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wouldn't even have made this movie. Like I would have never touched this. And also the whole psychology of Drago throwing in the towel for his son. Like, what? Like, I don't know, man. I just didn't care for this one either.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, I do like the actor that they picked to play Victor. I mean, he does have maybe it was the script, but he does have something for me. You know, I mean, he doesn't have the presence of Dolph Lundgren, obviously, but you know, I thought he was very intimidating. At least, you know, I mean, out of all the boxing actors they've gotten, you know, next to Tommy Morrison, he was probably the best one. So,
sure, I would say he's definitely better than that villain in Creed 1 and probably Antonio Tarver. But again, I don't know. Like to me, the whole appeal was seeing Dolph back. Like that I wouldn't even have seen it if Dolph wasn't in it.
Yeah, and it was nice a little bit. And I do like sort of the fact that, you know, Ivan Drago did grow because it's been 30 some years. I don't know if I really still buy him again throwing in the towel for his son, but you know,
like okay, that doing that, it feels very sly, and I believe he had a hand in writing Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
But like, okay, I like the whole thing of giving Dolph Lundgren's character a little bit more of a human side, but that's not Ivan Drago. Like,
like, listen, it's okay for, you know, characters, you know, to change after 30 some years, but like something, you know, again, Superman kicking the field goal in the sea. You know, it's not that level of change, but it's, you know, it's pretty close. And I mean, I think that Ivan would have at least like told his son to sit there, maybe hit harder or something, not throw in the towel. I don't know.
Weak, in my opinion. Devin says, hey, Grande, I had an idea for you video. What you could do top 5 worst shark movies. Oh, geez. I don't know. I haven't seen that many shark movies, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I could do that. Jaws of Revenge would be on there, but that's about it. I've never been much of a Rocky fan, but listening to you two talk about it gives me respect for the movie. So thank you for the discussion. Thank you for listening. Appreciate that. Mateo says Creed avoidable franchise. Just my humble opinion. I would agree with that. I don't think I'll ever watch Creed or Creed 2 again. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I don't think it's the actor's faults. I really don't. Like I like
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan. I like Michael B. Jordan. I like Ryan Coogler as a director. I don't know. It's just, to me, leave Rocky at Rocky Balboa. That was the perfect ending. Just leave it be.
I'll say this though for my part 3 after we're done reading comments, but
oh yeah, sure. Sharknado 1 through 5, Neon says. But what's your idea for part 3, and then we'll call it a night here.
So remember in Rocky 2, we found out that Apollo had other kids, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're telling me that this is the only kid that went into boxing?
See, when I first saw Creed, I thought it was going to be that kid, and then it was, oh well, he cheated on his wife, and I was like, fuck this.
So here's my thing, because that one of the kid. Okay, so how you explain that basically the kid didn't, you never heard about this kid, is maybe he fought on the European side of boxing or something, like he fought in
sure.
Since boxing's not big in the US anymore, he fought more in Europe or something.
And maybe he used a different name just so he wouldn't get the attention, just on purpose.
Yeah, and so something like that. And so when he finds out about this kid and he's getting the attention in America, and yeah, maybe he is older, like he is in his 50s, because that kid, Rocky takes place, that Rocky 2 takes place in 77, and that kid would have been at least 5 years old, maybe. So he would have been older, but like maybe he still has it. He could still, because look at George Foreman when he fought. He knocked out Tommy Morrison when he was he wasn't quite 50, but he what I'm saying.
Sure.
He can still fight, and he challenges his brother in the ring. So it's brother, and then to give
who's the better Creed? That would be better than what they did with these other movies. I would at least out of curiosity.
It's Creed versus Creed, because I don't want to see the son of Clubber Lang, the son of Tommy Morrison. Nobody wants to see that. Move on.
The son of Tommy Morrison. The son of Mason the Lion Dixon.
Yeah. See, nobody wants to see that. So make it Creed versus Creed. Because that's even a good title there, Creed versus Creed. And honestly, then what I say, just to give it more emotional depth, just to maybe give Adonis more of a reality check, that he has to stop being so cocky. Maybe he has a new trainer and he flat out tells him, stop being this obnoxious prick, call him out on it. Get a reality check, call him out on it. And because you're fighting your brother in the ring right now, who wants to kill you in the ring because he sees you as, make him more like a Clubber Lang type, where he's antagonizing him, where he sits there and says, call him a love child, call him that stuff,
Hey, love child. That would be funny,
because that's what he is to him.
Sure.
Because he would feel if I found out that my dad, if I was a boxer and I found out that this kid who's also a boxer, and then I found out my dad cheated, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to challenge you in the ring, because not for my father's sake, because I feel like betrayed by my father and all this stuff, because biblically speaking, not to go into Bible talk, but biblically speaking, the only way to get a divorce is if you cheat on your wife.
Neon says, I pity the love child.
Yeah, exactly.
Drago's supposed to be a monster. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I get what you were going for, Sly, but that shit didn't work. Are they making a third? If they do, I hope that they go with Ty's idea.
Yes.
We all know the next antagonist should be the son of Thunder Lips. Oh my God, yo, that
only if it's Brooke Hogan. And call her.
Well, it can't be Nick Hogan.
I'm sorry, Hulk, if you see this. Call her Lightning Tits. So yeah, anyway, that's what I say, because, and then to give it more emotional depth, I even had an idea. I was toying with an idea of giving Bianca, his wife, say She's sick with something, because and I don't know what you give her, but just to give him more of a reality check, because it's just like you need to really, and then the other thing is find a way to add a Paulie type of character to give him more heart, because to me Paulie was always the key of Rocky, and who knows, maybe even eventually when they fight it out, the brother character could be the Paulie character. But I will say this though, one thing I was going to say to people: this fight should feel like, I would say, I've kind of noticed it feels like Adonis Creed kind of fights like a little bit like Mike Tyson. He's hard hitting like Mike Tyson. So I would say that maybe this guy should feel like, again, Muhammad Ali. So you try to make it feel like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson got in the ring.
Sure. I mean, that would work.
And
Absolutely.
and I have the perfect person though to play the son of Apollo Creed, the real son, Idris Elba.
Oh, that would be something, man.
Because that guy is a kickboxer and he's in his 50s and he could still pack a punch.
He's the right age. And yeah, that's true, man. Mateo says, Ciao, Grande. Awesome as always. Mateo, thank you so much for watching, man. Quickly, before we end here, want to rank them really quick?
Sure.
I would go the original, Rocky 2, Rocky 4, Rocky 3, Rocky Balboa, Rocky 5, Creed 2, Creed 1. That would be my list.
I think that actually that would be kind of be my list too. If I really thought about it, because I would have to sit there and count and everything and think about it. But my list would basically be the same,
Yeah.
I think
overall, I think if you didn't have the Creed movies involved, I think it's arguably the best film saga ever. I think right up there with the Star Wars 6.
Hey, I think if they do my idea for Creed, I could make the Creed movies better because at this point, again, it's 3 strikes you're out. At this point, because if they do something like that, because people are gonna, we live in the internet age. People are gonna ask, like, you're telling me that nobody. I mean, we're what's the biggest country right now where boxing is big right now? It's not the U.S. It's somewhere in Europe, probably, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't know. You could say he fought in Sweden or something. I don't know. Something like that. Because again, the brother versus brother story can always work, and sometimes, and be really emotional. And especially if you have Idris Elba and Michael B. Jordan playing off of each other, I think it could work.
Sure, I think it could too. The acting is there. It's just, I think it's the writing that's what really hurt those movies.
Listen, I mean, if I had some way to, if somehow this retrospective gets in the hands of the people involved that need to make it, give me a call, because I'd gladly take that writing check and everything.
Pay the man, somebody. Only good thing about Creed 2 is Drago's in it. Totally. Trenchy says, great show, guys. Stay frosty. Thank you so much, Trenchy, for checking in. Neon Black Reviews. Idris Elba will always be Stringer Bell to me. And the Master of Fear says, see you, Grande, in the next stream. Thank you so much for checking out the show, Devin. I appreciate it. But Ty, this has been a fun time talking all things Rocky with you, man. And I want to thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Dude, we're definitely down the road. We will link up again, and we'll have to do another episode. I don't know what yet, but this is a long time coming. We were originally going to do this Thanksgiving week and postponed it all the way to the first week of February. So I want to thank you for being patient. And
no problem. Well, I mean, hey, I didn't get to do it I didn't get to see it, do the retrospective on Thanksgiving because, I got a chance to see Grandma.
That's nice.
On Thanksgiving, and I was going to be gone the whole week, and I haven't seen, for obvious circumstances, haven't seen Grandma in 2 years, and she's getting older, and and then Christmas and all this stuff, but no. Hey, Next retrospective we could do James Bond.
Jeez, we went 2.5 hours on 8 movies. If we did James Bond, buddy, we'd be here 3 days, man. We'd have to do that in parts. There's no
exactly
way we could do that in one stream. It would be a challenge. I have them all on VHS, the exception of the Daniel Craig ones. So I don't know. Maybe we could totally.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Glad to catch the last few minutes. Great stream, John and Ty. Thank you so much, brother Neil. Appreciate it. Everybody, thank you all for tuning by. Ty, thank you so much for being my guest. They were great as always talking with you. And everybody else, we will catch you next week. Everybody have a wonderful, cheery, happy, healthy weekend. We will catch you next time only on the Graveyard.